My online male best friend has been treating me like garbage for years, as he's been hyper-possessive of me in our friend groups, and even gone as far as to chase off guys I might be interested in. But after I started to see the truth about this guy, I decided that enough was enough, where I finally decided to cut this guy out of my life once and for all. And honestly, I didn't realize it would be this hard, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, where your best friend can very quickly become your stalker pretty much overnight. Because the female original poster in this story has a guy in their life who went from being a good friend to straight up being this toxic, overwhelming person pretty much over the course of just a few years. So seriously, strap in for this one. This gets really weird pretty quickly. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to Am I the Jerk and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so I've been best friends with someone who I will call Steve for just a little over 5 years. For reference, I'm a 29-year-old female and he's 27 years old. We live a few states apart and we met through online video games. Now at first, Steve really did seem fine. He was one of the only guys I ran into online who didn't immediately try to make suggestive comments about me. He was supportive, he built me up, and honestly helped me feel a lot better after a friendship ended on my side. Early on, he was very encouraging and also opened up a lot about his own stuff, including a breakup with his long-term girlfriend that he said he didn't understand, which in hindsight is obviously a red flag. Over time though, things started shifting. We started arguing a lot and he began putting a lot of demands on me, which made me really uncomfortable. So I ended the friendship the first time because of that. After a while, I missed the good parts, and we ended up reconnecting a few times. During all of this, I was also kind of going through a personal reset. I was aging out of my early 20s, I was growing up, and I was developing way more functional empathy. So overall, I was a way more stable person than before. When I gave the friendship another real chance, I had a very direct conversation with him. I basically said to him, if we're gonna be friends, he needs to respect my boundaries and not treat me badly. He then apologized and said that he had reflected a lot and that he wanted to change, but that I needed to be patient because he was still working on himself, which in hindsight is yeah, I should have immediately ran, but I didn't. Now, at first, things actually improved. It felt like he was using therapy language, he was communicating better, and all of that. But every so often, he would still randomly lash out. I kept my boundaries pretty firm at first and would call things out directly, but over time, they slowly started slipping. And there was a point where I did realize what was happening. I just didn't really want to deal with it because I was genuinely lonely. He was also very generous throughout the friendship. I never asked for it, but if I mentioned liking something, he would just go and buy it for me. He also paid for trips like conventions and visits. It wasn't like this one-sided thing though. I contributed when I could and bought him things as well. He just made more money, so he had more flexibility. Now, at his suggestion, we started planning a trip to Hawaii together. I had never been and was actually really excited about it, and I tried to make it clear that I didn't want him overspending on me. But he was already in that habit and still just went all out. I didn't want to be rude or make it weird, so I just accepted it and I tried to cover my share where I could. We also joined another online group together and ended up in a guild where we started making friends. Some old acquaintances from previous games joined in too, and at this point I had grown a lot socially and I was actually building real friendships in the group. I usually stayed more low-key, but overall it was a pretty normal and friendly group. And I mean surprisingly normal, especially for gamers. But every time I got even a little bit close to anybody, Steve would get mad at me. Sometimes he would just straight up push people out of the group, especially if they were guys. It got to a point where I had to explicitly say that we are not in a relationship and never would be. He said he understood, but his behavior still kept getting more boyfriend coded, and other people started noticing too. I would downplay it oh, we're just long-term friends, and people would just go, yeah, okay. Well, after about a year, I start getting romantically close to one of the guild members, and the difference was insane. Being around him felt like breathing after being stuck in a car full of exhaust for years. And that's when I really started noticing how tense I was around Steve, who was, supposed to be my best friend. Not because this other guy did anything specific, but because I realized I wasn't anxious around him at all. I wasn't constantly monitoring what I said. He was calm and kind, and it made me realize how often Steve would make backhanded comments, how much he would insult me and raise his voice when I disagreed with him, and then completely flip things around when I tried to explain that I felt hurt, almost as if I was the problem for even bringing it up. I had genuinely built this idea that I was just a difficult person that people tolerated, and then suddenly I realized that wasn't actually true. I'm just pretty gentle and honestly way too accommodating. And yeah, at that point, I started dreading talking to Steve. I'm not gonna act like I was perfect though, I really wasn't, but most of the time I didn't initiate conflict. I would get pushed to a point where I would just snap, and when I did, I could be really mean. I would bring up insecurities, mirror his behavior, mock him to prove a point, or or completely ignore him when he wouldn't stop, sometimes even baiting him back. I definitely have toxic coping patterns that I could still fall into when I feel cornered. Eventually, it turned into this exhausting loop where he kept saying I didn't care about him and how I wasn't spending enough time with him, but I was literally hanging out with him almost every day for like almost 6 hours. When I started taking about 3 days a week for myself, he actually got mad at me. And if I spent that time with anyone else, it was even worse. I told him I did care about him, but I really needed space, and I couldn't keep doing the constant arguments because it was draining me. He then basically twisted that into, oh, so you don't want this friendship anymore, and then started going off about how much he hated how I was changing, which is also known as me starting to have self-esteem and some kind of boundaries. And also, at this point, I really felt stuck. He had already paid for this Hawaii trip that we were supposed to take in like early summer, and at this point, it was still mid-November. But eventually, I hit a point where I simply couldn't take it anymore. I told him we clearly wanted different things, and I didn't think that we could be friends anymore. I apologized, and I told him that he should try to get a refund for the trip. I didn't ask for anything back that I contributed, but instead I just cut my losses. Well, when I did this, he begged me to reconsider. He used therapy language, he said he would change, and did the whole cycle I had already seen before. So I blocked him on Instagram and Twitter and stopped responding in-game. I do feel bad that he spent thousands on the trip, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I didn't feel safe when he yelled at me, and I couldn't keep living in that constant argument loop. So I really need to know, am I the jerk at all in this situation? Because I really just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, this friendship should have ended a long time ago because Steve is creepy. This guy clearly has a crush on you, or at least wishes that you would be his girlfriend. But instead, he's stuck in the friend zone and he's clearly getting hostile about it. Like, just look at the way he treated other guys in your friend group. He either pushed them out or he became like this rabid animal, just chasing anybody away who got close to you. She can only be friends with me. I'm a real best friend. Like, you should not have needed to explain to anybody that you guys are not dating. Like, Steve's behavior is absolutely over the line and not okay. So truly, I think it's a good idea to get rid of people like Steve in your life because he is just gonna tear you apart. Steve's gonna ruin any chance you have at holding on to that self-confidence and at least moving on with your life, because the way he's currently acting is really creepy in my opinion, and this is like borderline stalker behavior, and you definitely don't deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for not leaving work to help my wife after she ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere? Because despite the fact that I gave her so many other options besides me showing up in person, she still decided to try and blame this on me, saying that I'm unreliable and that she can't count on me anymore. And now I'm kind of wondering if I messed up because I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I have been married for 11 years and we have 2 kids. I work full-time and she works part-time while also doing online classes to finish her degree. She dropped out of college after 2 years and still wants to finish. She has ADHD and anxiety, and if I'm being completely honest here, sometimes it feels like our entire lives revolve around her symptoms. Now, last Friday, my wife didn't have work and decided to go visit her sister who lives in a small town about 45 minutes away. She didn't tell me she was going, so I was very surprised when she called me shortly after noon. She was obviously upset when I answered, and between the sobs, I was able to make out that there was an issue with the car. Eventually, she calmed down and told me that she ran out of gas in the middle of nowhere and she didn't know what to do. Now, because she hadn't told me she was visiting her sister, I was very confused and I had a lot of questions, which only made her more upset. I was also getting frustrated too, since I finally just asked her, okay, what do you want me to do? She then told me she needed me to come help her out right now, but I told her I was at work and I had meetings in the afternoon that I literally couldn't skip. I then suggested that she call her sister, but she went to work after my wife visited and my wife didn't want to bother her. I suggested she call AAA to come and help her out, but she said she didn't know how to do that. I then suggested that she call an Uber, but she was in the middle of nowhere and didn't show any cars available. I then suggested she call a friend or someone else that might be able to help, and it's here that she yelled out to me and said, just come over here and help me. Now, I tried to remain calm and reiterate that I'm sorry she's in this position, but at this very moment, I'm unable to help her out. I then told her I had offered numerous suggestions that she could try to help herself, but I just can't leave work. Well, she then just hung up on me. My first meeting meeting of the afternoon was starting in 5 minutes, so I tried calling her back and she just didn't answer the phone. I kept trying to text her during my meeting too, but she never responded. I tried calling again between my meeting and still I got no answer, which I will admit really pissed me off because even if I was trying to come help at that point, I simply couldn't reach her. Now, for reference, she is the one who picks up our kids from school, so I was kind of freaking out at this point because I was completely in the dark about whether I would need to get them or if my wife was okay. So I called the school and I asked them to please let me know if my wife comes to get the kids because I literally cannot reach her, but I made sure not to include any details why. Well, the school eventually called me back at pickup time and told me that my wife was there for pickup. When I got home at the end of the day, my wife refused to talk to me. She gave me the cold shoulder the entire weekend. I apologized for not being able to help multiple times, but finally this morning she spoke to me, but all she said was, "I can't count on you anymore." So seriously, did I really mess up that bad? Like, am I really the jerk in this situation? Because I don't know what to make of this and I don't know what to do. Okay, dude, I think the way your wife is acting is completely out of pocket, dude. There's no excuse for this. Seriously, you're just screaming at your husband and being like, "You need to come and pick me up right now. You and only you can save me. You need to figure this out." And it's like, dude, I know you're struggling and I know you're really stressed out, but for starters, why did you really not have enough gas to get where you needed to go? And also, why can't you just call someone else who's closer? Like, your husband's at work. He can't just drop what he's doing and like go and run after you, which by the way, you still haven't told him where you are. There are so many other things she could have done to like, I don't know, save her situation. But instead she wants to complain to you and be like, "Oh, you're unreliable." Like, no, dude, she literally can't help herself and that's no one's problem except for hers. So no, you're not the jerk. You literally offered every suggestion under the sun besides you showing up in person. And clearly at the end of the day, she was able to figure it out without you being involved. So it's weird to me that she wants to give you like this cold shoulder treatment because I don't think you deserve this in the slightest. My entitled neighbor wanted me to watch her dogs over the long weekend for free, and then suddenly got weirdly offended when I told her no because I literally had plans. And I gotta be completely honest, she is one of the most annoying people I've ever had to deal with. Here's what happened. Okay, so my neighbor, who I will call Karen for the sake of the story, knocked on my door last Saturday morning and asked if I could watch her 2 dogs for the upcoming long weekend. Basically, she wanted me to watch them for 3 days. Her dogs are fine, I guess. It's a lab and some kind of terrier mix, but they're a lot of energy, and one of them chewed through my friend's phone charger the last time I helped her out. I said, "I'm sorry, but I have plans this weekend, and also I'm not really set up for dogs at my place right now." I said this totally polite, and it honestly was not that big of a deal. Well, she then kind of pauses and goes, "Well, it wouldn't be that much work. They mostly just sleep." And I said, "Yeah, I get that, but I still can't do it this weekend." Then she hits me with, "Oh, well, I just figured since you work from home, you would have the time." And it's like, yeah, okay. Working from home doesn't mean I'm available to run a free boarding service for your pets. Then she says, and this is the part that really got me, "Oh, I thought we were friends. I would do it for you." Which, okay, we are neighborly, but we've had maybe like 4 real conversations in 2 years. Like, I don't even know her last name. But I just ended up repeating that I can't help this time, and she laughed, but she seemed genuinely annoyed. In fact, recently she walked past me in the parking lot yesterday and barely even nodded. I looked up local dog boarding afterwards, and it's like maybe $60 a night, which honestly seems totally reasonable for someone to care for your animals, but I guess the correct price is actually $0 because she would rather me do it for free out of some weird obligation that I definitely never signed up for. Okay, I hate neighbors like this who pull the whole like, "Oh, we're like friends. I would do it for you." Because holy crap, no she wouldn't. She wouldn't do that for a second. She would leave you high and dry and not think twice about it. And the fact that she's trying to guilt trip you and be like, "Oh, come on, we're pals." That's so weird in my opinion, and honestly it shows her entitlement. Am I the jerk for taking a shower at around midnight when I know that I might be bothering the neighbors who say they're hearing everything I'm doing? But right now, I'm not sure if I want to change my routine because this just doesn't seem quite fair for me. And at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Okay, so we purchased a home and moved in recently, and I gotta be honest, housing opportunities are tight in our area. So even though we were warned that the walls are very thin and the neighbors hear a lot of noise from the apartment, especially from the bathroom, we still chose this property because everything else is picture perfect for us. Now, we are in general a very quiet couple without kids or any animals, and our hobbies are generally really quiet. And we only really invite friends over maybe like once a month. And yes, we are the owners of the apartment. Now, the neighbors are a couple and they have a small kid. They rent the apartment next to us, and before we purchased the home, they warned us that they generally hear a lot of noise coming from our bathroom and that it's their bedroom on the other side. But as I mentioned, our options were limited, and given that we're not noisy at all, we really thought we can take this situation. We sometimes sometimes hear their toddler, but that's completely okay, like it doesn't bother us at all. The real problem is that we bother them, as our routine is very different. They wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and generally quiet down at like 8 o'clock, when the kid goes to sleep. On the other hand, because I work from home until 7 o'clock at night, I generally start my evening at around 8 o'clock and only end up showering at around midnight, which apparently really bothers them. The whole building is quiet, so they tend to hear how I put my stuff down, how the water's running, how I sometimes drop a few things, and they mention it very nicely a few times, but I can see that they are pretty annoyed by this. Now, I'm really torn between switching up my whole nighttime routine to shower first, which just doesn't sit right with me. Like, I like to go to bed freshly showered, and I would do this because they ask nicely, and they do wake up at around 5 o'clock in the morning, so it must be really annoying to get woken up at midnight. On the other hand, they only rent while we own the home, and I think we're generally really good and quiet neighbors apart from the fact that I shower late. They even invited us over to listen to the volume, and if I'm being completely honest, it's not that loud. Sure, you can hear something and it must feel louder in the silence of the night, but it's not incredibly loud. So am I really the jerk for showering at night? Because right now I'm not sure that I'm going to change my routine and I just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think the original poster is absolutely a jerk. First off, just because they're renting the apartment doesn't mean they somehow don't have like the same expectations of like quiet hours like you do. So for you to like completely disregard them being like, hey, the shower's loud, don't do it at midnight, and try to justify it by being like, oh, well, they only rent, that is super toxic and really weird. Like, dude, just take a shower before midnight. In fact, most quiet hours are like, hey, don't make any noise after 10 o'clock or something like that. So for you to be saying, oh, I'm going to take a shower at midnight anyways, even though it's going to make a lot of noise for them and it's going to really keep them up. Like, bro, you're the problem here. This is so unfair for them. They're trying to be respectful, but it really doesn't seem like you care. And that, in my opinion, proves that you are definitely the jerk here. Today, I messed up by basically tanking my job interview by implying that I would be mentally checked out on Friday at 3:30 for my job interview. Because now I'm reflecting on it and I'm just absolutely so embarrassed because I'm convinced I screwed this job up and I now just really don't know what to do. Here's how it happened. Okay, for a bit of background on this mess up, which by the way is 100% my fault, I had an interview a few weeks ago with a different company. That interview was on a Friday afternoon and I could see the interviewer was exhausted. He was nice, but I could tell he just wanted to get the interview over with and go home. Now, I didn't get that job, and having gone over the interview with the recruiter, we realized his mind had probably already gone home for the day. And to be fair, I've also conducted interviews on Friday afternoons, and I know that it's a lot harder for me to remember things, engage with a candidate, or even focus on what the candidate was saying. So, lesson learned. Don't do interviews on a Friday afternoon as either the employer or the employee. I get a screening call today from Human Resources for a different job, and it goes okay, but it is the end of the day, and I'm feeling quite tired. The Human Resources person then asked if I can do an interview this Friday, and without thinking, I say, okay, that's fine. They then ask for the morning or the afternoon, and I say afternoon, because I've got meetings in the morning, and I thought that maybe it would be like at around lunchtime. The Human Resources person then asks, okay, well, how about 3:30 in the afternoon? I then say to them, no. And yeah, I drag the word no out just like that. I continue by going, I don't think that's a good time. I don't know about the hiring manager, but I'm mentally checked out on Friday afternoons. And I said it just like that. I tried to walk it back and kind of explain the situation like I said above, but between being tired and completely mortified by what I had actually just said, it felt like I was adding gasoline to the nuclear explosion. Now, to her credit, she took it in stride, but I could definitely hear it in her voice where she was basically saying, did he really just say that? But you know what? She still sent me the invite to the interview. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I just toasted my chances. Again, this is no one else's fault except for my own, and I know this will be a funny story to tell the guys at drinks, but right now I can't stop hitting my head against the table about this because I'm sure I just ruined a job opportunity that I really wanted to get. Yeah, that's one of those situations where you put your foot in your mouth before you could tell yourself to stop doing that. Don't do that, stupid. Don't do it. I've also had those kind of moments where you're in an interview and you're like, man, I really need this job. Please don't screw it up. And then you say something that contradicts what you said earlier and you're like, oh man, there it goes. The whole interview's gone. So don't beat yourself up too much. I mean, these things happen, but hopefully you do get the job and somehow this is salvageable. Because truly, Friday afternoons during the work week really do suck. And I don't think I know of anybody who actively enjoys that time frame. Am I the jerk for taking money from my boyfriend without asking, even though I was trying to pay him back almost immediately when I had the cash? Because right now he is livid with me, and I really just don't know what to do to fix this. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was doing laundry, I noticed my boyfriend had left $10 in his pants. I took them out and I put them on the table with the rest of the cash. And for reference, we have a jar where we usually keep coins or cash because my boyfriend doesn't carry a wallet, so he just kind of leaves it there. Now, he went out to another place, so I invited my younger sister over for a sleepover, and I decided to go to the store with her and treat her to something nice. So I took those 10 euros. And honestly, usually I just ask my boyfriend if I can take the money and he never refuses. I know it was stupid, but it was just $10, and I would literally return them the next day when I have cash. So I didn't say anything to him. Well, the next day he wanted that 10 and asked me where it was. And I said what I used it for and instead just offered him 20 from my wallet. And when I did this, he got really angry. He said I'm a thief and that he can't trust me and he can't leave me in the apartment alone because what if I steal something else? He told me to go to my parents for a while and said he doesn't want to see me. And honestly, I was in shock and I just sat there silently thinking about the situation. I understand that I did something wrong by not telling him, but on the other hand, it's not that serious. And I was going to return his money and I literally did. But he then got even more pissed off because I was sitting quietly, saying it annoys him when I sit there like I'm offended, as if he's the one at fault. But I said I wasn't offended. But he interrupted me and started asking what I spent the money on. And at this point, I hesitated because I felt embarrassed that I spent it, not even on groceries for our home, but on my sister. And it definitely would have been better to just use my credit card for those small purchases. But what's done is done. And now because I took too long to answer, he thinks I'm lying and that I spent the money on something else. But it's like, dude, what kind of terrible thing could I have possibly spent $10 on? I understand that it's not about the amount, but about the fact that I didn't say anything, but it really feels like he's overreacting. So am I really in the wrong here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, dude, you are not the jerk at all. This is definitely an overreaction. Your boyfriend's being melodramatic for literally no reason, and he's trying to spin this into a situation where it's like, oh, I can't trust you anymore. But like, bro, it's not that serious. Yes, you can still trust me because, dude, I'm trying to pay you back. Like, what a weird conclusion to jump to. Like, this guy is completely out of his mind. So no, you're not the jerk. You're literally trying to do the right thing, but it seems like he's really denying you that chance. My idiotic friend literally doesn't work for 10 years while he's getting his master's degree, and despite the fact that we've been begging him to do something to put on his resume, he claims that he will figure it all out once he's graduated. But unfortunately, now that he has graduated, he literally cannot find a job, and things have gotten so bad that he's now asking to move in with me and my husband. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have a friend that moved to another state to pursue a college degree using his savings. This friend is always calling us and talking to us and asking for our advice, but rarely, if ever, puts it to use. We've come to the conclusion that it's not so much that he wants our advice, but rather he's hoping that we will be supportive of his ideas. We've been suggesting that he should have at least a part-time job while in school, so he wouldn't completely deplete his savings. His response was that he wanted the full college experience and didn't think that having even a part-time job would allow for that. Now, admittedly, I'm not empathetic here because he was starting college in his 40s. I went straight out of high school and at times worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. So the full college experience, in my honest opinion, includes financially struggling while trying to have cheap fun, but I digress. Skip ahead 4 years and he finished his bachelor's and decides that he wants to pursue a master's degree and wanting to switch from cybersecurity from accounting. Now again, he asked my husband and I for advice, and I suggest that he get a full-time job and work on the advanced degree part-time in the evenings, knowing full and well that he's pretty much depleted his savings at this point. My husband points out that in IT and cybersecurity, at least in the United States, that certifications are more important than degrees, and it's cheaper to pursue. My husband also let him know of mentors to follow online that could help get cheap or free vouchers to cover the cost of some of the certification exams to make it even cheaper for him. My husband also suggests that he get a full-time job, and if he doesn't want to use the accounting degree, then maybe try getting an entry-level help desk job, just to get the IT experience on his resume. Well, jump ahead another 4 years, and our friend decided to pursue 3 master's level degrees at the same time, all instead of getting a job. 2 of the master's degrees are in IT and cybersecurity, cybersecurity related, and the third is an MBA. As he's finishing these degrees, my husband and I both asked if he was actively looking for a job to start after graduation. He tells us he just wants to focus on finishing school and that he'll worry about a job after he's done. We try to impress upon him that he has the resources at school for pursuing employment that would make the process easier, and it wouldn't take much time away from his studies. But his response was to say that that would still be available after graduation and that he'll deal with it then. Another 2 years later, up to present day, and he is still unemployed and complaining that since he doesn't have any work experience for the last 10 years, his resume basically only has his degrees, and he's being told his degrees make him overqualified for entry-level positions. He contacts my husband and I saying that he's researched the job market, and where my husband and I live, the market is better for cybersecurity. He then had the audacity to ask if we would sponsor him to move back to the East Coast where we live. That way, he would have an easier time applying for jobs here. Now, what's his idea of sponsorship, you might be wondering? Well, that involves living at our house for free for 6 months while he's looking for a job. And it's like, bro, absolutely not. I am not your mom, and my house, my food, my utilities, and transportation are not free for me, so they're not going to be free for you. Besides, I already gave you my 2 cents over and over, and you should have taken it instead of getting in the situation you're in right now. Okay, dude, the second you let that guy move in is the moment you will never get your house back ever again. You can bet he will live there for the rest of his life if you allow it, and he will absolutely never leave under any circumstance. And this guy has it completely backwards, by the way. The full college experience is working while going to college. It's having a part-time job that has awful hours, where you barely get any sleep and you're still getting your work done. Like seriously, this guy went a decade without working, and now he's got all these degrees and he can't do anything work-wise. Like that is so dumb. So no, I do not think you should ever let this guy move in because my God, he would never move out. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for filing a police report on my neighbor after they literally scratched my car in a way that has gone down past the paint? Because right now I'm very pissed off and I seriously am not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my upstairs neighbors are very careless, and today they dropped a window screen on my first newer car, and this is the one that wasn't a total crap box ready to fail. I keep it clean and nice because I worked for a while to get it to this point. Anyways, my upstairs neighbor's kid was putting in an air conditioner today, and he pushed the screen forward and out instead of sliding it up, and he was clearly fighting with it and got angry and just pushed it. Well, my car is right under their window. It somehow missed my hood and slid down the side, and I was standing outside and I saw it happen, and I was just completely baffled. He came down with a big goofy smile on his face, grabbed the screen from me, and just started to walk away. But I said to him, "You damaged my car," and he just kept walking. Granted, my upstairs neighbors don't speak much English, but it's also frustrating because you need to stay here and have a conversation with me. This isn't the first time stuff like this has happened, but today it's my car and I'm very annoyed. The dad was even working on his car in the driveway as well, and he didn't even do anything about it. I said to him, "Your son dropped a screen on my car," and he just shrugged and pointed to his tire that he was working on. Now at this point, I'm about to call the local police station to report it, but I don't want to be a jerk about it. But also, my new black car is scraped to the metal. I've also texted my landlord and they basically said, "Oh no man, that sucks." I've also tried cleaning it off, but it's just there and scraped to the paint in other little spots. So seriously, am I the jerk if I do this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, you've tried to do this every which way possible to try and find some kind of solution. You tried talking to them directly, you tried talking to the landlord, and literally everybody's brushing you off. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, you better believe I'm gonna call the police. I'm gonna get a police report going and I'm gonna be like, "Listen, these people damaged my car and they're refusing to do anything about it." Like there's no excuse for that. If you damage someone else's property, you need to pay for it. And these people absolutely need to do that. They need to step up and do the right thing here because you did not ask for your car to be damaged and these people were being reckless, so that definitely means it's their fault. Today, I messed up by accidentally hiking a marathon when I thought I was going on a trail for something much smaller. Here's what happened. Okay, so this situation truly is a comedy of errors. To start things out, I dabble occasionally in hiking. I've had a couple of backcountry trips in my younger years, but as of lately, I am pretty out of shape, and I'm mostly working an office job. In the past year or so, I've done maybe 5 or 6 hikes that a friend of mine would drag me on, maybe 5K, 10K max, but they felt okay. All this to say that I probably have just enough experience and little enough actual fitness to be dangerous to myself. Well, visiting a place out of town this week, I knew I wanted to do a pretty significant hike for me, and I cruised all trails for a good one, and and I found the Allmeyer Lookout at Lake Minnewaca. AllTrails said that it was a 23-kilometer and an out and back hike. So I figured, okay, a challenge, but I'll hike 12, take a break at the summit, and then hike 12 back out. Knowing this is the longest I'd ever attempted, I set a boundary for myself that if I hadn't reached the summit by 2:00 p.m., I would have to turn around and kiss that gratifying view goodbye for the sake of getting back to the car by sunset, and trying to be realistic about having to trek the same distance back out. Well, my first mistake was not understanding that AllTrails gives you the one-way distance of an out and back hike. I prepared myself well in the morning. Bear spray and bells, plenty of food and water, layers of clothing, sunscreen, emergency supplies, and my medications. And this is one credit I will give myself. I did ensure that I had everything I needed for a big hike. I also had this handy-dandy new Garmin watch to help me track the hike, and that was really cool. And so I set off. Hour 1 was delightful and flew by as I chatted with another family on the trail. They turned around at the first pretty bridge, and then I was on my own. Hours 2 and 3 were also lovely. I was marveling at the views, enjoying the fresh air, and generally vibing. My body felt great, even if I was feeling the burn. But oh, sweet summer child, if only she knew what was coming. Hour 4, the ascent started, and I was feeling pretty pleased with myself. I figured since it was about noon, that I was way ahead of schedule, and would certainly be at that majestic and coveted viewpoint well before 2:00. I started listening to an audiobook, and channeled my inner warrior as I started huffing and puffing my way up the mountain. Well, this is where I started to crack. I severely underestimated how much harder it is to consistently hike up with no flat reprieves. Regardless, I persisted for 2 more hours. There were lots of breaks and one very nearly puking moment that I was able to stave off with some Gatorade, some banana chips, and some medicine. And thank goodness I had my pocket pharmacy with me. This is also where I peed trailside for the first time. Despite my best diligence and efforts, I did indeed find a tick on my belly later that day, which was really disgusting. All the while, I'm watching the numbers tick upwards on my Garmin. The kilometers seem to be going by so slowly, but I chalk it up to me being a chunky lady with little legs and elevation being harder and slower. Well, I summit, I take some photos, and then I head back down. And thank goodness downhill goes way quicker than up. Now for the rest, I'm thinking I was mostly in a fugue state. My phone was on low battery, so the audiobook had to stop in the interest of keeping the last of the battery for emergencies and continuing to update my safety person on my locations. So I raw dogged the long way home with just my thoughts. Thoughts like, you can do anything, even if you're slow. This will be a new personal record, and the hardest part is over. I also had the thought of, oh, do I remember how to jerry-rig a tourniquet if a bear rips my arm off? Oh, and sorry, side note, did I not mention I was in grizzly territory? I mean, I didn't bring the bear spray just for funsies. The way home seemed impossibly slow. Why are the kilometers ticking by so slowly when I keep putting one foot in front of the other? I'm definitely going the right way, so I guess I'm just slower than I thought perhaps. I finally, blessedly make it back to the car, and I traveled from 8:45 in the morning all the way till 7:15 at night. I mean, what a day! I beat the sunset, and I had totally expected my legs to be jelly after 24 kilometers, so I'm calling it a win at this point. I eventually get back to the hotel, and a friend cheers for me, where she says that I'm crazy for doing a 24-kilometer hike. Well, proudly, I pull out the Garmin app to show her my stats, and that's when I find out that it was set in miles. 24 miles! And with 1,000 meters of elevation to boot. For all of you who aren't aware of the conversion, it's about 40 kilometers, quadruple the distance I'd ever done in a day, which is almost a complete marathon. The combo of not understanding how AllTrails measures an out and back, and not looking closely at the units of measurement on that fancy new Garmin watch, means I accidentally did a marathon and didn't even know it till it was done. So anyways, it's now morning, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to walk on the plane, because my god, my legs are incredibly shaky. Oh man, that's really funny, because I don't think anybody plans on walking 24 miles, dude. Even 10 miles of walking is a lot. I can't imagine doing, what, double that and then some extra 4 for the heck of it? Holy crap, that must have been crazy. But you know what? At least you hit your new personal record, because that truly will blow any record you have out of the water. And I'm sure next time you probably will not be doing something like that in the future. Would I be the jerk if I dropped out of my friend's wedding after he derailed my career and caused me financial hardship? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so my friend and I, who we will call Mark, have been friends ever since we were kids. We've been in the same industry and we worked similar roles for about 25 years. He started a contracting business in 2016, and 4 years ago, I brought him in as a vendor at the Fortune 500 where I was working. Well, Mark's business grew rapidly, and we're talking 5 times the employees and 10 times the revenue in a short time. He would often ask me to come work with him, and in 2023, he was overwhelmed and needed help help, and so he convinced me to be his partner. The role in question was director of operations. I would basically run things and he would grow the business, and my compensation included earning equity in the business. Well, I left my secure job of 5 years with stock options, a 401k, etc. based on this offer. I emphasized my need for stability, knowing replacing the job that I left behind would take a long time and a lot of effort. For 2 years, I worked 60 plus hours a week, I traveled extensively, while Mark did nothing to grow the business. He was hard to reach and often missed meetings. His leadership was a complete disappointment. When I saw he wasn't holding up his end, I tried to secure new customers and projects, but he rejected every opportunity. This year, he's refused to take on new projects with existing customers to the point that we've lost all of our employees. Well, last Friday, he called, saying that he decided to completely shut down the business. My email access was cut off, and on Monday, I was offered 2 weeks severance and nothing for my earned share of the company. The letter states that my role has been eliminated due to downsizing and streamlining, and I now think that the promise of ownership was a lie just to convince me to run his business. His lies and actions have derailed my career and put me in a position of financial hardship. He won't answer my questions in text messaging or email and insists that I call him, but I want a paper trail. I was in Mark's first wedding, and I'm a groomsman in his second wedding this July, and at this point, I canceled the bachelor party fishing trip. So with that in mind, would I be the jerk if I dropped out of the wedding? I am too hurt by his betrayal to stand with him and pretend this is okay. What should I do? Okay, honestly, there's no way I would ever stick with this wedding. Like, dude, are you kidding me right now? This guy derailed your career. He took it all apart at his own self-interest. He basically lied to you and said, oh yeah, I'll give you all this stuff that you want. And then he turns around and says, oops, sorry, we're downsizing, see you later. And it's like, my God, what a crooked individual. So no, this guy does not deserve any favors because he truly is a complete piece of garbage. My idiotic boss accused me of bullying after I literally just asked her a question in the middle of a meeting. So I decided to maliciously comply by reporting myself to human resources, resulting in a meeting that truly was a waste of time that eventually led to my boss getting fired. Here's how I did it. So years ago, I worked in a semi-public sector job as part of a successful team helping make life easy for local businesses. Our team boss took a good job in the private sector, and a new boss was recruited from a decent organization similar to ours in a different part of the country. She worked compressed hours Monday through Thursday and was off on Fridays. Well, a month or two into this, and although the new boss was quite particular about things being done her way and had upset a couple of my colleagues by criticizing their work, I'd had no problems with her. We had a team meeting where the boss said that our performance wasn't good enough, even though we were arguably the best in the country, and that she wanted to be more involved in what and how we did everything to ensure better quality, meaning that she wanted us to copy her to every client email so she could comment as needed before we sent another reply. Now, although this seemed inefficient, nobody argued, and I just asked her if it should wait until Monday for her to comment on any client emails received on a Friday. I can't remember exactly what she said, but at the end of the meeting, she asked me to stay behind and then told me in a heated tone that my question was bullying behavior and that it was unprofessional to ask the question in front of the team, and said that my actions were the sort of thing that HR would see as grounds for dismissal and that I should be very careful in the future. So I told her I understood, and when we returned to our desks, I wrote up every single detail of the entire meeting and interaction, and I sent it to the head of human resources with the explanation that as bullying was very serious and may not be reported by the victim, I felt duty-bound to report myself. I also laid it on pretty thick about being appalled by my unprofessional behavior and the fact that my career was likely at risk, and I clearly had a desperate need for training and discipline just to fix my dangerous ways. I also copied in my union representative. Well, within a day, me, my union representative, and my boss were all with the head of human resources, who, by the way, is a by-the-book professional, could find no indication of bullying or justification for my fears of an unprofessional bully in need of re-education. I was then asked to leave the meeting. My union rep stayed in, and I don't know what was said, but within 6 weeks, my boss was gone, and that same week, my big boss called me to thank me, as apparently he wanted to get rid of her but didn't know how to do it, which I truly find incredibly funny. Dude, I love the fact that you got rid of that boss because that lady sounds obnoxious. Here you are just asking a question inside of a meeting, and then she had the audacity to sit there and be like, you're bullying me, I need you to stop. And it's like, dude, nobody's bullying you. The original poster literally just asked a question, and you're trying to be like, wow, stop questioning me, you're bullying me. Like, what an idiot, what an awful boss she probably would have been. So good for you for getting this done, because honestly, that lady sounded like a basket case, and I guarantee you she's the kind of person who would happily tank your career if given the chance. Would I be the jerk if I decided not to skip my stepson's graduation, even though his biological mom is threatening to make a scene if I do show up, because right now I feel very torn and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been married to my husband for 5 years now. His 17-year-old son is graduating high school next month, and I met him when he was 11 years old. I've never tried to be his mom, and we took things slow over the years that we've built a decent relationship. I help out where I can, and mostly I'm behind the scenes, like giving rides or school stuff, or making dinner when he's over. He casually called me his bonus mom a couple of times, which I took as a good sign. However, his mom, who we will call Jenny, has never liked me. She's never been openly hostile, but always cold and dismissive. I've never pushed her though. No drama, no trying to parent her kid. Instead, I've just tried to be supportive when he's with us. Anyways, he told me he wants me at his graduation. He said it directly and saved me a ticket. A week later, my husband gets a call from the school, and apparently Jenny emailed them and said only she and my husband will be attending, and that I shouldn't be allowed because of family issues. And we had no idea she did this. My husband called the school to clear it up, and when we asked her about it, she basically said I was overstepping and that graduation is for his real family. She told someone in the family that if I show up, she might leave or worse, not let her son attend. Well, her son still wants me there. He even told his dad, don't let her ruin it. My husband fully supports me going, but now a couple of his relatives are telling me that I should just stay home to avoid the drama. And I'll give you one guess about who called them about it. I get it's a sensitive day, but I'm not there to make a statement. I just want to show up, support him, and leave quietly like everybody else. So am I the jerk for insisting on going? Because right now I'm seriously frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't blame you for being hesitant, but in my opinion, I absolutely would be there, especially if the kid's like, look, I want you there. Because this day is not about Jenny. Jenny does not matter right now. It's the son and his graduation. And the fact that she wants to make this about herself is so unacceptable. So yeah, I think you would be the jerk if you skipped out on this graduation. If Jenny wants to make a fool out of herself, then honestly, that's on her. And I guarantee you that the son is going to remember that for the rest of his life, and she will never live that down. Which, by the way, is absolutely not your problem, and not something that you should concern yourself with in the slightest. Am I the jerk for letting my parents move to a more expensive place without telling them that I won't be coming with them? Because their entire living situation hinges on the question of whether or not I can help them pay for their rent. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of background, my parents are just barely making it. My mom doesn't work and it's just my dad. Anyways, that's not important right now. My parents charge me rent nearly $600 every month, and they've been doing that ever since I was 16 years old. So back then, that was nearly all of my money. My parents are planning to move soon, and I overheard them talking about increasing my rent to $800 a month at the new place. Well, they didn't talk to me about it, and they just assumed that I'd come with them and suck up the increase. I later found out that the new place is out of my dad's price range unless I'm there paying the $800. And apparently my mom wants it because she likes it. Now here's the thing. I've quietly been applying for apartments in Texas behind their backs. I mean, I don't plan on moving with them at all. I'm ready to start building something on my own, and I want to go to college. But if I don't go with them, they can't afford the new place. So basically, they're banking on my rent to make it work. So am I the jerk for not telling them that I'm not coming and letting them move under the assumption that I'll be helping with rent? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because what kind of parent is going to charge a child rent? I understand that some parents are like, oh, it's time to learn some tough love. But dude, just make him get a job and save up. Don't be like, okay, that'll be $600 a month, please. Especially if you have the capabilities of not only finding work, but also paying for rent yourself. I can understand if there was some kind of mutual dire situation where it's like, no, we need the money. Can you please work and help us pay rent? But in this situation, it just seems like the parents are being selfish, and they're like, no, we're going to make our son work, and we're going to make you pay $600 a month. And now with them trying to be like $800 a month, please, it just feels like they're trying to use you for their own purposes, and that's not okay. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation, because your parents are being incredibly toxic, and you definitely do not deserve that. My entitled toxic father quite literally broke my daughter's phone and is now refusing to pay for it. And now I'm being called the jerk all because I'm demanding that he pay for it, as it simply would be the right thing to do. But with my family turning against me, I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I have a 17-year-old daughter and my dad is in his 70s. For some background, my father has always struggled with being responsible with money. He's always spent irresponsibly, never really saved, purchased things impulsively, and has occasionally gambled. He's currently in limbo between being broke and being barely not broke. Well, yesterday, me and my daughter went to visit him and my mom for an early Mother's Day celebration. My daughter spent time alternating between being on her phone and sketching while me and my parents were talking. About 2 hours into the visit, visit, she asked if I had a phone charger, as it was getting low, and she wanted to get some charge on it before the car ride home. My daughter has an iPhone and I have an Android, so we use different chargers, so mine didn't fit. My dad has a very cheap and old phone and offered his charger. My daughter explained though that because it was a similar style to my charger, it simply wouldn't work. She then left her phone on the counter and went into the living room. We then spent the rest of the visit watching TV with my mom in the living room while my dad was in the kitchen. When it was time to leave, my daughter went to grab her phone and started screaming and crying. I then ran in and I saw that my daughter's charging port was completely destroyed. The bottom of the screen was cracked and the lower phone frame was dented. My dad casually mentioned that he tried to charge her phone for her and that simply didn't work. I then yelled at my dad and asked him how he did not realize the phone was breaking. He said he was too focused on trying to push the charger in. I then told him that he's either going to pay for a new phone or a repair, depending on which option is deemed better. He then started arguing with me, saying that he can't afford to buy an iPhone and that my daughter can go without a phone for a while. But I argued back that my daughter does need her phone for communication with friends and family, and also for safety as we track each other with Life 360. On top of that, I'm not going to make her go without her phone because he broke it. My parents are calling me a jerk for demanding the money from them, saying that I'm taking money from poor old people. And yes, they pulled that card, but they're not going to go into poverty if they pay for this. And instead, my dad just won't be able to gamble. They always pay their bills and have food, but don't have much left over afterwards. My dad usually always blows the leftover money immediately, and my brother and sister are saying that I should just pay for the phone myself, and that my daughter's a spoiled brat for throwing a tantrum over not having her phone 24/7. So seriously, am I really that much of a jerk for demanding that he pay for a phone that he broke? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Oh my gosh, there's no way on earth I would ever let this slide. Seriously, your dad broke the phone. And by the way, how did he do that? Like, he had to have been like slapping that phone on the tabletop or really jamming that charger in there and being like, well, why isn't it working? Meanwhile, the freaking phone is breaking in his hand. Like, are you kidding me right now? This guy literally was just completely unaware of what he was doing, and that's so unacceptable. So no, you are not the jerk for making your dad pay for this. He's the one that broke it, nobody else. Any other point they're trying to bring up about whether your daughter's spoiled or not, or if she just can't live without her phone, or them trying to be like, oh, but we're old, you're gonna put us in poverty. It's like, dude, none of that matters. The only thing that matters here is that these people need to pay for it because they broke it. Because I guarantee you, if the shoe was on the other foot, then this absolutely would be your fault and there's no way you would ever get out of it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I left some money on my desk that mysteriously went missing, and now no one in my family is confessing to taking it, leaving me in a hard place where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a 25-year-old female, and this year I had to move back with my parents for monetary reasons. I am no deadbeat, I have a job, and I pay the bills and the groceries twice a week to contribute. My mother doesn't want me paying more and is happy to lend me some money when things are rough since she has a good job. However, this weekend I left with my friends for a trip to a country where euros are not used. So I left 90 euros on top of my desk under the corner of my mat, and they were very visible. Well, when I came back, they were gone. I asked my family, namely my mom, my father, and my 10-year-old brother, thinking that someone might need them and took them, or that someone didn't want to go to the ATM to go get cash, but everyone says no. I looked through my whole room, every purse, jacket, and corner, and I simply cannot find the money. The thing is, I wouldn't mind giving it away if they had asked me. I am living in their house, but I feel hurt that they took it without saying anything to me, and this is not a small amount. I suspect that my father took it, and since he lies constantly, he won't admit it. He doesn't have a job and was always obsessed with money. My problem is that when I brought this up on Monday, it triggered a fight where it was said, oh, it's not me, how could you say that? And at this point, I do not know what to do, but I want someone to come clean about this. At this point, it's not about the money, even if it is a lot for me, but about trusting and lying to me. What should I do? Okay, I gotta be honest with you, I don't think you're ever getting an answer to that money ever again, but hopefully this is a lesson for the future that no, you can't trust any of these people with your money. They're literally gonna take it and run away and be like, I didn't take it, how dare you accuse me? Like, at that point, you might as well put your money in the bank and be like, okay, I can never have cash on hand, and I no longer trust you people because my god, you already stole 90 euros from me, which yeah, that's a lot of money, I don't care who you are. So hopefully in an ideal world, somebody comes clean, but in my opinion, I would not get your hopes up. My boomer father saved a whole $2,000 by not hiring movers, but exchanged that for literally having to do everything himself, and I'm still blown away by how hard he made this for himself, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. My boomer dad has always done things the hard way. He's the type to take pride in driving 24 hours straight to Florida instead of just getting a motel room. Or he will DIY an unpleasant task that's cheaply and easily outsourced. He pretty much never passes up an opportunity to make things as hard as possible. It made for some pretty miserable childhood experiences when we had no choice but to be dragged along with his terrible priorities and awful plans. Fast forward to present day, and my parents are in their early 70s, and they're moving into a retirement community apartment from a house, and my dad decides he's going to get a U-Haul and do it himself, with a couple of guys helping out for a few hours one day instead of hiring movers. Apparently, $2,000 is too much to pay for something he can do himself. My mother is disabled, and my father is in decent shape. He owns a pickup truck to move smaller stuff, but he's still 73 years old. He had a bad case of bursitis in his knee recently. He's had shoulder surgery. He physically can move his own house, but he really shouldn't. I attempted to tell him this, but my mom reminded me that he can't be told anything, and now he's just going to commit harder to prove a point. I told her the only point he's proving is that he is stubborn and makes bad decisions, but I'm going to advocate for sane choices. And my husband and I would not be helping with anything that movers would do. I could help organize and unpack the new place, but they were not making their bad decision my problem. We just moved ourselves in December, and it was exhausting enough with movers. Add to this that they have an absurd amount of stuff and the typical boomer mentality that everything is still worth what they paid for it and they might need it later. Imagine a house where every time they get a new set of dishes, they shoved it into a cabinet along with every dish set they've ever owned. But apply that to everything from jackets to bed sheets. They parted with a lot of things beforehand, but it was probably 1/3 of what they really needed to purge. They also moved over too much to the new place, including obvious trash, lots of expired food, empty jars, faded towels, etc. Well, they've been moving for 2 weeks so far. The house is empty, but the basement still has stuff in it, and the large detached garage and shed are still full. I spent 4 full days helping them empty the attached garage, sort stuff out between what we're going to keep, what we're going to throw in the trash, and what we're going to donate, unpack boxes, and attempt to set up and organize the new apartment, all while my mom fought me on every little thing. She moved and argued to keep flax seeds that expired in 2015 as one example. The house needs a total remodel and renovation, but it's in a highly desirable area. They got an offer the first weekend on the market for $800,000 cash, which was 2 weeks before closing and no inspection. The buyer plans to completely remodel and renovate over the summer before moving in. Yesterday, I told my dad that means they're going to gut it, and he can toss the old paint and supplies for cleaning the pellet stove. Well, this man looked at me and proudly told me he's going to clean it anyways. Even though it won't be inspected, they don't care about the condition of it, and they are almost certainly going to tear it out and replace it. He said to me, "It's not in my nature to turn over the house with the pellet stove dirty." They paid $200,000 for that house. It was totally paid off. They gained $600,000 in equity, but even then, they wouldn't spend $2,000 on movers. My dad has spent more on boat parts for his classic boat without even batting an eye, and they're moving and cleaning garbage. I'm mostly angry at myself for helping it all, but I'm honestly done. Way too much boomer nonsense for me to even pretend like I want to deal with it. Yeah, that sounds really frustrating. I can't stand that kind of attitude where it's like, oh, I'm gonna be proud about this simply because I can. It's almost like they're trying to like win stupid brownie points that nobody asked about, nor is anybody keeping track of. Like that stupid pellet stove, for example. The person buying is not inspecting anything, so cleaning it is quite literally pointless. So yeah, this sounds super frustrating, and I just don't understand that mentality of not hiring a mover, because that really is the logical choice, especially if you have the money. An entitled old man yells at me for opening on time, saying that I'm too stupid to be a manager and that I have the easiest job in the world. Things got so heated that he even said he was going to report me to management, even though I literally did nothing wrong. Here's what went down. Okay, so this is mostly a rant about some entitled old man expecting me to open 40 minutes early just for him. So I work at a pastry-style shop that opens at 12 o'clock. I came in at around 11:10, so a little later than I usually would. We only have one person working per shift, so we definitely use the entire hour to open. Well, this dude comes up at 11:20, banging on the door, nonstop jiggling the doorknob, and getting his nasty breath fog on the door. Now, this was for like 3 minutes nonstop, and eventually I came to the door. I said, "I'm sorry, we open at 12 o'clock. As you can see, the door is locked and the signs are off." He said, "Well, I need my pastries now." I said to him, "Sorry, but the doors will be unlocked at 12 o'clock, and I proceeded to then shut the door. He then comes back at 12 o'clock on the dot, already with a mission of destruction. He says I'm obviously too stupid to be a manager, and that I have the easiest job in the world, and it would be no problem for me to open early. But I basically just ignored him. I'm not going to apologize for opening on time. I packaged his pastries and I told him his total, and he continued to belittle me the entire transaction. Eventually, he was getting ready to leave, and I said to him, "You're welcome." And of course, he got mad at that too. He said, "Where's my thank you?" And it's like, dude, where's my thank you? So with the biggest smile, I said, "Thank you so much and have the best day." And he finally just left after that. He then said he was going to report me to management, but I already messaged my managers and they said not to let him in again. And my God, the entitlement of some people truly baffles me. Oh man, this is so crazy to me because there's no way I would have even served him in the slightest. I would not have allowed him to buy anything. I would have said, "Oh, I'm an idiot and my job's easy and I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, okay, yeah, get out of the store." Like the second he called me stupid is the second I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm not helping you. You can get out. Go to another pastry store and maybe learn some manners next time." Because this guy's behavior was completely unhinged and there was no good excuse for that. My boyfriend resents me because my family supports me financially, whereas his family simply doesn't. And at this point, I'm so tired of being called misprivileged that I really feel like I'm at a crossroads and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend often makes snide remarks about how my family supports me financially and calls me privileged for it. For reference, we've been together for 2 years. Now, I'm an only child. My family isn't rich, but we share what we have with each other. Before my current boyfriend, I was with an ex that painted himself as a good guy up until I moved across the country with him, and he isolated me, mistreated me, stole all my money, and knocked me up. I have a 2-year-old daughter with him, but I was able to escape the situation when I was 5 months pregnant. My parents bought my plane ticket home and welcomed me with open arms. They assumed full financial responsibility for my child and I, so that I could be a stay-at-home mom on top of spending time to heal and going back to college to finish up my degree and work when I'm ready. Well, my boyfriend comes from an affluent family. However, his father passed away 2 years ago, and he was the sole breadwinner for the family, and it turned his family's life upside down. His mother is now living off the money lent from other family members, and she's also got Social Security as she is in her 70s and can't work. He works under the table at a place that doesn't pay hourly. It's literally just based on commissions. He's there for about 10 plus hours some days, but if there's no customers, he doesn't get paid a penny. On a good day, he'll make about $70, but that is so disproportionate to what he should be making for that amount of time worked. He is really angry about not having much money, but also refuses to look for another job out of loyalty to his boss, who is also his friend. He's always upset about being late on payments, as well as his mom asking him for money. I feel bad for him and I try to be as understanding as I can, and I know he's under a lot of stress financially, and I never ask him for anything or expect anything from him. I just want his company. Anyways, he's been making more and more jabs at me about being misprivileged for taking handouts from my parents and not having to work while he works 5 days a week and is still struggling to make ends meet. All my parents help me out with is my $25 a month phone bill, as well as providing food and clothing from the thrift store for my daughter. I left everything I had when I left my ex, and I came home to my parents and lived minimalistically, but my boyfriend had many payments he's responsible for, namely the car, the phone, the credit card, student loans, helping his mom, etc. I'm trying to be empathetic towards him, and I know he has it much harder than me, but there's nothing I can do about it, and I don't think that I should be ashamed for having a family that takes care of me when I'm down. So is there a way to navigate this and put an end to this weird, jealousy that he has? I feel that the only way he'll be happy is if I struggle alongside with him, but I seriously don't want to or need to do that because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Dude, your boyfriend sounds super toxic. Seriously, who in their right mind would be like, "Oh wow, you're just so privileged. Your family cares about you and you get money. Good for you. Wow. Oh man." Like, dude, what are you talking about? This is your girlfriend. Why are you treating her like the enemy? She didn't do anything to you. She's not the reason you have all these problems. If anything, it sounds like the original poster wants to be supportive of their boyfriend, but instead he's taking it out on her in some kind of weird jealous rage. And this, by the way, is absolutely gonna ruin this relationship if he's not careful, because I know if I had a partner who did this, I would be very pissed off. So yeah, this is super sketchy, and this is definitely a red flag that I would not ignore. I sold my laptop to an old friend at a huge discount, but now his girlfriend is interfering and saying that he'll only pay for it if he gets the laptop first. And I'm now at a point where I'm questioning my entire friendship with this guy, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I've been friends with this guy for over 10 years. We met in an online game, we live in different cities, and have met in person a couple of times. And this is usually when I visit his city with my boyfriend. But even still, we have been through a lot together. I've supported him through some really hard times. When he broke up with his ex and wanted to move out of his parents' house, I offered him my apartment for way below market price, essentially just covering utilities like water, electricity, and heating. I lent him money about $500 with no fixed repayment deadline. I even helped him get into a free training program for a new profession, as he does only have a high school diploma, and now I'm trying to get him an internship internship at my workplace under my recommendation so that he can move up from his tech support job. He and his girlfriend are barely scraping by. I also never kept score. I always considered him a real friend, and yes, he's been there for me too, whether it's advice or just a listening ear when things are rough. There was a time when he was desperate to move out of his parents' house but couldn't afford rent. At the same time, I had an apartment I was renting out, and as I mentioned, I offered it to him for whatever he could afford, but he declined for various reasons. The first red flag came when he decided to move 1,532 miles away for a girl he had never met in person. I mean, he decided to move in with this girl he'd only known for about 6 months and live with her. He said he needed money for rent, he needed plane tickets, etc., and then he asked me for a loan. I even suggested they both move to my city instead. Of course, it's not my place to decide, but it seems so strange to me. She's only moving 50 miles from her hometown, while he's leaving everything behind, things like friends and family, and moving 1,500 miles to be completely dependent on her. But he had already made up his mind, so I gave him the money again without asking for a return date, and I just said, okay, send it back whenever you can. Still, it really stung. I live way closer, only 930 miles from him, just a 2-hour flight away. I had invited him multiple times to visit, not to move in or anything, just to hang out, meet my dog, grab a meal together, but he never did. So I said to myself, okay, we're just friends, I get it. Fast forward to now, and I listed my old but perfectly still functioning MacBook Pro for sale. I initially wanted to sell it for about $800, and half jokingly, I sent him the listing and offered to sell it to him. It turns out he really wanted a MacBook and had been checking listings but couldn't afford even a used one. I asked how much he could pay, and he said $650. I offered it to him for $530 just as a friendly gesture, and he said he didn't have the full amount up front and asked to pay in 6 monthly installments. And you know what? I agreed. Then I went on vacation. My boyfriend and I were working on the house, relaxing, and I just started looking for the best way to ship the laptop. I had never shipped electronics before, and I wanted to make sure it would be safe. I found some old boxes and some old foam and ordered some additional supply seal tape for security reasons. Amazon, of course, delayed the delivery, so shipping was pushed back a little bit. Now, at this point, he had not made the first payment yet, so I asked when he could, and he said May 7th. Well, by May 10th, I got my shipping supplies, and I told him I'd sent the laptop over the weekend. And that's when he messaged me, okay, once you ship it, I'll send you the money. Now, at this point, I laughed and I teased him about not trusting me, but then he explained that it wasn't him, it was his girlfriend. She had told him not to send me the first payment of $100 until he received the laptop, and he just passed it on to me like it was totally a reasonable argument. Well, she said to wait until it arrives, and it's at that moment that it finally hit me. I'm not some random stranger from Craigslist. I'm his friend, someone he's known and trusted for over a decade. So what would you do in my place? Given everything I've done for my friend, I'm starting to wonder, what if someday his girlfriend just tells him to cut me off and he agrees? What should I do? Okay, this is really sketchy because it sounds like for a while now, your friend has been using you and not reciprocating this in the slightest. Like, this guy's always asking you for money or favors, and yet the second you're like, hey, can you pay me back in a timely manner? He pulls this weird card of like, oh yeah, as soon as you ship it over. And it's like, dude, wait a second, this is not fair at all. You need to pay for the item I'm sending you. This is expensive. Not to mention the fact that he still owes you money from a loan. Like, what's going on right now? Where does this guy get off expecting he can get away with stuff like this? So for me, the second he would start acting like this is the moment I would be like, okay, I don't think he's actually my friend. The care I'm showing him is not being reciprocated, and this is not worth my time. Because truly, it sounds like he doesn't care about you in the same way that you care about him. And in my opinion, at least if I was in your shoes, this really would be the last time I would help him out with something like this. An entitled old jerk nearly hits me with her car, all while I'm riding my bike. So I decide to get some revenge by riding close to her car and pretending to key it as I drove off. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I was riding my bike today on a road that is somewhere between a side road and a connecting road. The speed limit is 35 miles an hour, but it rarely gets up that fast at the time I was riding on it. I generally follow all traffic laws. I ride with my helmet on, etc., but I do try to be cognizant and non-obstructive of traffic. Where I enter this road, traffic is usually going about the speed limit or slightly slower. About a mile past that though, it slows down significantly. It terminates in a busier intersection, so there's usually a long line of cars going 5 to 10 miles an hour after that. Shortly before reaching the slowed cars, an old lady laid on her horn as she passed me, and passed obnoxiously close too. I mean, I could have literally kicked her car, she was so close. Normally, I would just take a place behind a car and follow the flow of traffic to my destination, which is before the intersection. However, the lady was only a few cars ahead, so I rode up the shoulder right next to her. I got her attention and I held up my keys, then made it look like I was keying her car. Well, she started flipping out as I flipped her off and I rode off into the sunset. I was was on an e-bike and she was stuck in traffic, so there's no way she was ever gonna catch up with me. I wouldn't actually damage someone else's property like that. You know, who needs that kind of exposure? But I do hope that she took some time after that to evaluate her actions. Oh man, I love this so much because seriously, you were not doing anything wrong. You're literally just riding your bike and I'm assuming out of the way. Like you said it yourself, you're cognizant of what's going on and you're non-obstructive to traffic. So the fact that you got back at this old lady who was just trying to like mess with you, in my opinion, is absolutely amazing. My crazy neighbor quite literally poisons the water that goes to my yard and also demands full access to my property. But instead of giving in to this psycho Karen, I decide to match crazy with crazy by getting my lawyer involved in this entire process, as I'm determined to make sure that this crazy behavior is stopped right here and right now. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live on a large property with a small house in the front. There are many small hot springs in the semi-rural mountain area that I live in, with many used by homeowners in their backyard. Many are piped indoors, but some have hot tubs built around them, and I happen to have an active one in my backyard near my left neighbor's house. And for the sake of the story, we'll call this the crazy neighbor, and trust me, they truly are. A small stream runs through the far backyards of the neighborhood, and it's used for gardens and little nature areas that everyone on the street enjoys. I have my small fruit and pepper garden watered by the stream, and I take really good care of it. For some visualization, it has a good amount of water flowing down, and everyone on the street uses it in some way. My right neighbor, who's a really chill dude, who I will call Jay for the sake of the story, has small pools that he made that are fed by the stream, and 2 neighbors down has a garden similar to mine. Now with that bit of context out of the way, this is where things get really crazy. When I bought the house, the previous owners were sued by this crazy neighbor, with her claiming that the land was rightfully hers. I don't know the details of her argument, but it was thrown out as far as I know. The previous owners warned me about this crazy neighbor and told me not to engage with her family. When I moved in, the crazy neighbor's kids, all 3 of them, brought over some cookies and welcomed me into the neighborhood. I thought that the previous owner was exaggerating, as they seemed so sweet. So I invited the crazy neighbor and her family to a small barbecue and they accepted. Well, the second that they got in the house, this neighbor started to explain the rules of the neighborhood. I thought it was pretty normal, like not to play loud music after 9, keep your car in the driveway to keep the street uncluttered, etc. Just some common sense rules, right? Well, that is until she got to some rules regarding the stream and the hot springs. She said that kids were allowed in all parts of the stream, even in private backyards, and that everyone could use each other's hot springs. And when I heard this, I was surprised because I have the only hot spring on the street. I then interrupted her and I told her that I wasn't comfortable with those, and she literally scoffed, saying that all neighbors were fine with it. I told her that I still wasn't comfortable with it, but she just ignored me, continuing with some questionable rules. The rest of the night was fine, but I felt like I wouldn't want to do that again. I talked to some neighbors across the next couple of days, who all told me to steer clear of that crazy neighbor, and that her rules were complete BS. I then went over to this crazy neighbor's house, and I told her that I had talked to the other neighbors, and that I was not comfortable with anyone being in my backyard without my permission. Well, she let out a scoff and said, okay. I then had lunch with Jay, and he told me who this crazy neighbor was. She is a serial suer, with her lawyer on speed dial to get whatever she wants. She had even sued a small chain pizza place in town into debt for having peanut oil on her pizza when she was allergic to it. But the pizza chain didn't even have peanut oil, and many people in the small community believe that she put it on it. But even still, they lost everything. So I decided not to ever talk to her or her family ever again. Well, a week later, I got home from the grocery store, and I see the crazy neighbor's kids splashing in my hot spring tub. And for reference, it is outside, and usually it has a lid on it that 2 small kids would definitely not be able to take off, as it is heavy and large. I then tell them that they're not allowed in it and to leave my yard immediately. But you know what? They stand their ground, telling me that their mom told them that it was theirs and that they could use it whenever they wanted. I told them that that's not true and to leave right now. Well, they finally do. And before you think that I'm a jerk for that, remember that pools and hot tubs are dangerous, and I don't want to be liable. I then headed back out to buy locks for my gates. When I got back, this crazy neighbor was now there, demanding why I kicked her kids out. She then tried to remind me of these rules, but I told her to leave immediately and that my security camera was recording. She then cursed at me for a minute or two, and then she left. Now, I was bluffing as I did not have security cameras, but I did order them on Amazon that night. The next day was fine, where I replanted a lot of my plants from my apartment's balcony into the empty garden. And it was then that I noticed this crazy neighbor kept looking over the fence. For the following weeks, this neighbor complained about the trees in my yard, the color of the fence, what I'm doing with my stream, etc. Jay occasionally came over and told her to F off, but 3 weeks ago, I left for a couple of days for a friend's wedding, and I kept getting security alerts saying that there was motion in my backyard. And often it was her kids playing in my garden, trampling all of my peppers. I then texted Jay to tell them to get out. Now, if you're wondering why not call the police, well, they wouldn't do anything as they're just some kids. I had a suspicion that this neighbor was telling them to do these things, but I didn't have much evidence. On the drive back, I got a security alert that there was motion in my backyard. I didn't check as I was driving, but when I stopped for gas, I checked and saw this neighbor instructing a plumbing team to install piping from my hot spring into their yard. Well, I saved all the footage from that interaction, and I sent messages to Jay about it. Jay told them that they weren't allowed to be doing that, but since it wasn't his house, they didn't listen to him. I called the police and they went, but they had already installed the piping. In fact, this team was just leaving the gate with my broken lock on the ground when the police showed up. They said that they had been hired by the homeowner. The police waited for me to get there while talking to the team of workers, and I told them that I was the homeowner and that I hadn't paid them to do it. Well, at this point, they looked confused. I then went with the police into my backyard, and I started ripping the unsecured piping out with a crowbar. This crazy neighbor then starts shrieking from her yard and puts her head over the fence and starts yelling that I'm destroying private property and that she would sue me. This neighbor then says that she has a contract with the owner of the house to literally have my hot spring water. Well, the police are now confused. She then shows a contract that read that she was paying me $2 per month in exchange for water. Now, of course, this neighbor won't give it to me so I can look at it, besides waving it around in the air. The police eventually leave and warn me not to destroy the piping, but I ripped up the small pipe that connects to the source as she's telling me that she'll see me in court. I contacted my lawyer and she said that this neighbor has no case as she didn't know my signature and it would be easy to prove that it was forged. And while I still haven't been served by this neighbor's lawyer, I do know that it will be soon. In the meantime, I've been sitting in the hot tub for long baths while talking to myself loudly about how much I love it. And sure, it's petty, but it made me feel good hearing the growls from across the fence. Now, this is the final thing that made me post here. My garden is wilting and dying at an unnatural rate. I heard a commotion come out of this neighbor's yard, and I peeked over and I saw her slowly pouring a massive jug of chemicals into the communal stream, which literally goes down to mine. I don't know if it was a plant killer or something like bleach, but it's rapidly destroying my plants. And I haven't eaten any of the fruit or peppers since I'm worried I might get sick. I think if I can get definitive proof of her doing it, I can maybe use it in court to prove how crazy she is. People swim in pools from the stream, so I warned Jay not to for the time being, and I told him to tell other people. I know one neighbor removed her garden from the soil and moved it away from the stream just in case it got down to hers. I'm unsure of what I should do next. I don't think I live in a two-party consent state for video recording as it doesn't list it as one on the PDF that I found. But honestly, regardless, I feel so annoyed by this that I just seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is some crazy stuff because the original poster has a lot of updates for it, and they literally go through everything from like damming up the stream at the very start of it, as well as testing the pH levels, and then eventually going back and forth between this crazy neighbor, as well as getting lawyers involved. At one point, this psycho neighbor even takes out the original poster's like power, like they go to their house and like flip the breaker. It's like, dude, what is going on right now? This lady is out of her mind if she thinks she can act like this. And apparently this is someone in their 40s. Like, dude, you've got to be a special kind of crazy to be acting like that. I don't know if there's any like substances involved. I know the original poster doesn't mention that, but from the sounds of it, they're going through their lawyer and they're going through the proper steps to make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else ever again. Because apparently this has been going on for years. Can you imagine living next to someone like that? Like, I can't imagine my every waking moment dominated by that weirdo. Like, that would literally just drive me crazy. I couldn't do it. So good for the original poster for taking the steps necessary to protect themselves and their property, because this crazy neighbor truly is just that. They're absolutely insane, and you do not deserve to be treated like this in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mom is holding me responsible for the way my younger siblings dress, claiming that my younger siblings are copying me, and that I need to fundamentally change how I dress just to make her happy. Here's what's going on. I'm 22 years old, and I've been living at home while I finish my last 2 terms of nursing school that I have left. And trust me, it's been very rough here. I'm honestly frustrated. My mom constantly tells me what I wear isn't appropriate, and that my younger siblings are copying me. But I really don't think I dress badly or overly revealing. I usually wear maxi skirts, maxi dresses, and yes, I do wear crop tops sometimes, but my overall style leans more towards a boho aesthetic. What I wear fits me well, and while I may have a slight bit of appeal, I don't think I look provocative. I just happen to have curves that I can't exactly control. She told me that she'd prefer I wore my flowy blouses, looser pants, maxi skirts that aren't as fitted, crew neck tops, less jewelry, and less makeup. But the crazy part is that she wears super tight tight tops with cleavage out, tight clothing in general, and even shorts where her butt is literally hanging out. There was even a time where I wore a maxi tube dress, and she told me that I looked naked, but a couple weeks later, she wore the exact same style dress except hers was way shorter. On top of that, I've noticed some of my clothing has gone missing, and I've seen that she's been stealing and wearing my clothing. And because she's bigger than me, my clothes end up stretched out. I even found some of my things hidden in a bin. When I bring it up, she says stuff like, I'm grown, and reminds me that when she had me at 20, she had to change the way she dressed because she had a daughter watching her. But that makes no sense because she has 2 other daughters. But somehow I'm the one who has to change? And honestly, I don't think me changing my wardrobe is going to stop them from wanting to wear those things anyways. I think it's more about their friends and what's popular at school, but when I tell her that, she keeps blaming me, and it's really starting to piss me off. On top of all of that, she keeps making comments about me buying things for myself, and how she couldn't do that because she had me. But I don't constantly spend money or splurge. I buy what I need or occasionally treat myself, and I keep up with my maintenance. And it's not like I don't help out around the house either. I always pitch in when needed. I'm just tired of being made out to be the bad influence when I'm really just trying to live my life. I'm minding my own business and not even doing anything extreme. So has anyone ever dealt with this kind of double standard? How do you deal with it without completely losing your mind? Because right now I don't know what to do. Dude, your mom's obnoxious. She's clearly like projecting in some kind of way because guess what? You're not responsible for your younger siblings. That is such a weird stretch in logic. It just honestly is super annoying. So no, you're not at fault here. You haven't done anything wrong. And if your mom's upset with the way your sisters are dressing, then she needs to start with herself and set a good example instead of trying to shift that blame over to you. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for breaking my friend's phone, all because he broke mine previously and never apologized for it? Because right now I feel like I made a mistake and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, a while ago, my friend and I were hanging out, and for the sake of the story, I'll call my friend Alex. Alex is not their real name. We were both in a bit of a stupid mood, and I guess the vibe was off, but nothing too major. At some point, I set my phone down on the table, and when I turned my back, Alex accidentally knocked my phone off the table, and it landed face first on the floor. The screen cracked, and I was pretty upset about it. Like, yeah, accidents happen, but I wasn't thrilled. But here's the thing. Alex didn't apologize or offer to help pay for it, and when I asked him if he was going to do anything about it, he kind of shrugged it off. I was like, okay, cool, whatever, but it felt pretty dismissive. Fast forward a few days, and we were hanging out again, and this time Alex's phone was on the same table. This time though, I didn't accidentally knock it off, but I definitely picked it up, slammed it on the floor, and watched the screen shatter. I was furious, and I felt like he needed to understand how annoying it was to have something important broken without even a basic apology. Well, now Alex is really mad at me, saying I went too far and that I should have just talked to him about it instead of escalating things. My other friends are divided, and some think that I had the right to get back at him, but others think that it was childish and that I should have just let it go. So am I the jerk for breaking his phone in return? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Oh my gosh, yeah, you're absolutely the jerk here. You seriously should have talked to him before throwing his phone on the ground like that. That is so inappropriate and incredibly rude. And I'm willing to bet you did way more damage to the phone than just cracking the screen. If it really bothered you that much that he cracked the screen by accident, and from the sounds of it, it really was not on purpose, unlike what you did, then you should have talked to him and said, hey man, this is really not cool. I need you to pay for this. Because seriously, 2 wrongs do not make a right here. And the fact that you felt it was okay to throw his phone on the ground, in my opinion, is completely insane. My manager decides to give me the runaround, all because I was trying to take 2 days off to go to my cousin's wedding. But after she said no, I decided to maliciously comply and get some serious revenge by taking all 23 of my unused PTO days all at once, leaving her to deal with all my work and all the fallout in the process. Here's what happened. So my new manager comes in loud, talking about structure and consistency. Suddenly, there's no work from home, no flexible hours, no swapping PTO. I asked to move 2 days for my cousin's wedding, and she goes on to say, sorry, we can't make exceptions for anyone. It would be unfair. Alright then, so I put in a request for all 23 of my unused PTO days straight through the end of the quarter, with no overlap and no coverage. And you know what? It got approved in like 10 minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is fantastic. But after that, a couple days later, she's in full panic mode. She comes to me and says, wait, who's handling your workload? I say to her, I don't know. I assumed you had a plan. No exceptions, right? So she had to cover me and deal with all of the fallout. Stuff piled up, clients got pissy, and 2 people even quit. And I eventually came back to the new human resources memo. It said the following: managers can now approve flexible PTO on a case-by-case basis. So I guess it turns out fair looks different when you're the one getting screwed over. And my boss learned the hard way that she doesn't want to be the one on the receiving end of karma ever again. Oh man, I love this so much because this kind of stuff happens all the time when you've got a new manager who's like, oh yeah, we're gonna change things around here. And it's like, dude, this is never gonna end well. You're only gonna ruin everything for everybody else and it's gonna be a pain in the neck. So good for you for getting this PTO and using all of it all at once, because the way she was treating you, in my opinion, was completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for booking my own Airbnb so that I don't have to sleep on a couch for 6 nights? Because after my aunt miscounted, I am now the odd one out. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my immediate and extended family have booked a vacation for later in the summer. My aunt who found this place knew the owner and they got a great deal. And my aunt initially said there are 6 bedrooms. 1 room for her and my uncle, 1 room for my parents, 1 room for my cousin and her husband, 1 room for my other cousin and his wife, and 1 room for their kids who are both under 10 years old. Now the last bedroom, you may be wondering, is where my aunt made an innocent mistake in miscounting. There are only 5 bedrooms. They told me that my boyfriend and I will have to sleep on a pull-out couch. I told my parents I would rather not sleep on a couch even if it does pull out. I also don't want to make my boyfriend sleep on the couch with me either, and that's literally for his own privacy. It's in the living room, which is in the middle of everything. I would rather not be woken up to people starting their day, and I would rather not have to change in the bathroom each and every time, or even leave all my stuff in the living room as well. I don't want to change in my parents' room either, because I know I would probably rush so that they would have their own privacy. I don't want to put my luggage in anyone else's room and fill their room with my clutter. The same goes for my boyfriend. I don't want to make him do all that either. My family has never had this big of a vacation all together in such a long time. I would love to be involved in whatnot, but I said I would rather not go if I can't have a room to myself, or I'll book my own place nearby and I will pay for my part for the main house everyone is in regardless. My mom refused both options as I will apparently ruin the trip if I don't stay under the same roof. If I get my own place to stay, it would solely be to sleep. I plan to be with my family at all other times and events. I don't care about the price of only getting an Airbnb just to sleep. I want my privacy. I haven't mentioned it to my cousins or anyone else yet that I'm considering getting my own place as close as possible though. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, this really is unfair for you and I don't blame you for being pissed off. I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. I would feel very slighted and very pissed off because I'm right there with you. I want my own space that I can do whatever I want with. So for them to be like, oh, you'll just sleep on the pull-out couch and no, you can't go anywhere else. It's like, no, that's not gonna happen. If I want to book my own Airbnb, I absolutely can do that and nobody's gonna tell me otherwise. So no, you would not be the jerk in my opinion, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. Am I the jerk for always dumping lemon juice all over my food? Because one girl I was on a trip with complained that when she tried to eat my leftovers, they were way too soaked in lemon juice to be edible, leaving me wondering if I'm the one at fault here, or if she should not have been sniffing around at my food in the first place. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I might be the jerk here, and I will accept my judgment regardless of what it really is. I grew up in a big household where all food and leftovers were fair game, even when I became old enough to buy my own food. To combat this, I started absolutely drowning my food in lemon juice. I could tolerate the taste and even grew to quite like it. So because of this, no one would touch my prepared foods or leftovers. It's a habit that I've carried well into my adulthood. I recently went on a large trip with some girlfriends. The Airbnb and excursions are evenly split. Food is paid for by ourselves because some people have specialty allergies. We have been going out to dinner the last few nights, and I always ask for extra lemons at the table. That way I can soak my food before eating. After a couple of days into the trip, one of the girls complained at breakfast that I was making food inedible to other people. Now this was news to me since the only food I was lemoning was my restaurant leftovers that I would eat the next day. Now what apparently had been happening since the first night was that one of the girls, namely the one who complained, stays up later than the rest of us and would eat or pick at any leftovers, disregarding the names on the containers. After trying my food on 2 separate occasions, she realized what I was doing and was pissed off. I said that she shouldn't be eating other people's foods that weren't communal, and she said to me, well, it's just how the rest of us feel. But no one else at the table said anything and the breakfast was really tense. Later on, while getting ready to go out, the other girls told me that they didn't like their leftovers being eaten, and they were glad that I said something but didn't want tensions going forward. That night at dinner, I purposefully lemoned my food again. The complainer made an angry noise and stormed off to the bathroom. I didn't say anything, and the rest of our dinner continued normally without her, until she came back out sniffling before we left the restaurant. She even gave me dirty looks the entire ride back. I am exhausted by this nonsense drama, but maybe I am being the jerk here. So truly, am I at fault? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your friend's an idiot. She literally decided to start eating all of your food and be like, wow, wow, this is not to my liking. And it's like, yeah, no kidding, you shouldn't be eating my food in the first place. And even your friends agree with you, but they're too much of a coward to speak up and say anything. So no, you're not the jerk at all. If you want to pour lemon juice all over your food, then guess what? That's your right. It's your food after all. And the fact that this one lady is trying to complain about it and be like, the rest of us don't like that. She's clearly trying to speak for everybody in the group, even though that is definitely not true. And that truly is super obnoxious. An entitled jerk treats me like garbage as I'm trying to show him my trailer that I'm trying to sell off. But instead of selling it to him, I decided to get some revenge by literally selling it to the next person at the exact same price, sticking it to this guy in a way that he will truly never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so one early spring, I decided to sell our travel trailer. It was only a few years old, it looked new inside and out, it was priced right, and it was the prime time of the year to sell. And I knew that it would be gone after a showing or two. The first family shows up after an odd phone call. The wife does all the talking, but made it clear that her husband, who we will call Glenn, makes the decisions in the family. She asked a ton of questions on the phone so that she could give the info over to Glenn. Glenn is in the room with her as this is all going on, and this is really weird, but whatever. So they roll in and I meet with Glenn. He tries to avoid eye contact and is trying to play a power game. The wife and kids are in love with the camper. They're polite and they're incredibly friendly, but Glenn is a massive jerk. As I answer his questions, he occasionally smirks. And at this point, I'm not interested in selling him dog crap fresh from my backyard, but I'm not lowering myself to his behavior. I give him the respect he deserves, taking the high road, since his poor wife and kids don't need to see me telling him to get lost. Eventually, Glenn says, I'm gonna give you the price you're looking for, and we'll be back next weekend with the check. He then barks at his wife and kids to go get back in the car. I tell him that I did not agree to any price. Maybe it will still be around next weekend, maybe not. He then smirks again and drives away. But Glenn's price was exactly what I would have accepted from any potential buyer who was not a jerk. At that point, I was clear about one thing. Glenn will never end up with my camper. Fast forward, and the next day, a couple shows up to look at the trailer. They are slack-jawed at the price and condition and ask what I will take for it, as they can meet me later in the day with cash. So I offer to sell it to them for Glenn's price. A few hours later, I have a fat stack of $100 bills in hand, and they leave with the trailer thrilled with the deal. Well, next Friday comes along, and just as expected, Glenn's mistreated wife calls in. She tells me that they got a loan and want to pick the trailer up tomorrow, but I play dumb and I ask what she means. And after she explains it again, I drop the news. I say to her, I'm so sorry, but it's gone. I told her that all Glenn had to do was respectfully offer the amount he told me I would be taking, and then leave a deposit check, and you would be picking up your camper tomorrow. I reminded her that she was standing right there when I told Glenn that we had not agreed to a price, and it was still very much for sale to whomever wanted it. Finally, I told her to make sure that Glenn knows that it's sold for his price the next day. And it's so sad because it seems like Glenn was a jerk, but I decided to be a bigger jerk just to get back at this entitled weirdo. I love this so much because I can't stand customers who act like this, regardless of the circumstance. They try to act like God and they pretend like, oh yeah, my word is law, and you're gonna take exactly what I give you. So good for you for standing your ground. I love the fact that you gave it to someone else for this guy's price, because his behavior, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by getting a tattoo of my mom in a bikini without my knowledge beforehand of what this tattoo actually meant, and I'm now feeling really dumb and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my dad passed away a few months ago. I was really close to him and I miss him a lot. My dad had quite a few tattoos, but one of them I remember dearly. It was this pinup style tattoo of a lady in a Hawaiian shirt and a coconut bra on his calf. I always liked that tattoo, even though it was pretty badly done. Most of the color vanished over the years, and I remember our dad letting us color in the tattoo with markers when he wanted to take a nap or just to keep us busy. My mom always disapproved, and I never understood why until now. One day, about 2 weeks after he passed away, I was walking around the city and came by a tattoo shop. One thing led to another, and I walked out of that shop with the same tattoo my dad had, the lady with a coconut bra. The artist did a great job at recreating the tattoo, and I was very happy. That is, until I got home and I wanted to show my mom. My aunt was there, who is my dad's sister, and started laughing like crazy. And my mom looked quite shocked, which is not the reaction I was expecting at all. I didn't understand what was happening until my aunt told me. She said to me, well, now you've got your mom on you forever in a skimpy outfit. Great choice. Well, long story short, my dad got this tattoo about a year after they started dating. She wore this outfit to a party, took a photo, and he got it tattooed a few weeks later. So I'm thinking to myself, great, this is just great. I was a bit confused because my mom has always had blonde hair, and the tattoo lady's got black hair, but apparently Apparently, she had a short phase of dyeing her hair black for a few months. My mom always hated that tattoo, and they almost broke up because of it back then. And she made him swear that he's never gonna tell anyone the story behind that tattoo, hence why I don't know anything about it and I never asked about it. I thought this was a random tattoo that he got on one of his many vacations. And well, now I have a tattoo of my mom in a coconut bra. Great. My mom told me she doesn't mind and that it's kind of funny now, but I'm really thinking of getting it removed. At least it's on my rib cage so I can hide it for the time being. I really don't want to show the world my mom in a bikini, and at this point I seriously am not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think this is nearly that big of a deal as you might think it is. Like sure, this was some kind of conflict between your mom and dad, but I think for you it means so much more. You did it with the intent of remembering your dad, but now I guess you get to remember your mom as well. So if I was in your shoes, I would just embrace it and be like, okay, I'm just gonna keep it. I would not get it removed and I would just go with it. Because sure, it is embarrassing to an extent, but honestly, I think this really can work out in your favor. Today, I'm wondering if I overreacted when I walked out of a job interview within 2 minutes, all because the interviewer was on their phone the entire time. Here's what went down. Okay, so I arrived for an interview for a senior role that I'm very qualified for in a mid-sized company, and this was a very well-presented place. Now, the interviewer, who would have been my direct senior, arrived 20 minutes late, barely greeted me, before asking me to tell me about myself while looking at their phone the entire time. They didn't make eye contact once. They just leaned back with very nonchalant body language. Not the best first impression, but I was very impressed with the job offering when the recruiter called. I stopped speaking out of disbelief, and when they looked up and said, "Sorry, that's so rude," and they said they were looking at my resume while I was speaking. But you know what? I doubled down, and I just said I find it incredibly rude to be on your phone during the interview. I said thank you, but we can definitely stop here. I then shook hands and then I left. Everything was cordial, but I was furious the entire way home. So seriously, I need to know, did I overreact in this situation? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made the right choice. Okay, in my opinion, I do not think you overreacted at all, because if I was at a job interview like this and they literally were not paying attention, I would probably get really pissed off as well. Like seriously, that is so inappropriate and there is no good excuse for that kind of behavior. Am I the jerk for not begging my boyfriend to still date me when he literally broke up with me over text messaging? Because he claims that I should have come back and begged for him to bring me back into his life. And now that I'm moving on and moving out of state, he's freaking out and becoming super emotional. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, my now ex-boyfriend of 2 years randomly texted me saying that he wasn't happy anymore. I called him right away, and he said he would call me back, but he never did. When I tried again later, he ignored the call and just texted, "I'm done." For a couple of days, I wasn't even sure if he was seriously breaking up with me. I kept reaching out hoping that we could talk things through, but he ignored every text and call. Eventually, he told me that initial message was his way of ending things and that he thought it was obvious. Well, fast forward to yesterday and we met up because we agreed to try being friends. I started sharing my plans like moving out of state and traveling, and suddenly he just got emotional. He started crying, asking how I could just leave him like that. And I'm sitting here thinking, didn't you leave me? Then he said that he was still in love with me, that he wanted to be with me, and that when he sent that breakup text, I was supposed to chase after him, like show up at his place and beg. Apparently, ignoring me was part of some test that I was supposed to pass. I mean, I had no idea. I just thought he didn't care enough to answer his phone. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I'm still very confused. Dude, you dodged a train on this one. There's no way you're the jerk. If this guy really feels like he has to test you in this relationship, then trust me, it's probably not a relationship you want to be in. That's the sign of someone incredibly emotionally immature, and my God, you do not need that kind of energy in your life. Am I overreacting for canceling my mom's Mother's Day dinner after she told my 10-year-old son that he ruined her life? Here's what went down. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a single mom to my amazing son who we will call Liam for the sake of the story. His dad left when I was pregnant, and my mom was never exactly thrilled about me having a kid so young. She was always kind of passive-aggressive about it, but never outright cruel. Well, that is until now. I had been planning a nice Mother's Day dinner for her, like actually went all out, cleaned my apartment top to bottom, prepped her favorite lasagna from scratch, had Liam help me make a handmade card, and even bought her flowers, which is really hard considering the fact that I'm broke. She then came over at around 5:00 p.m. and all of it seemed fine. Then, during the dinner, out of nowhere, she says, and I quote, "You know what? If you had not had Liam, I could have retired already. I gave up so much because of your choices. He ruined everything." Liam just froze, like literally stopped chewing and looked down. I immediately told her that is completely out of line, but she just shrugged her shoulders and said, "Well, it's the truth. Someone had to say it." I told her that she needed to leave. She tried to laugh it off like I was being dramatic, but I insisted. I didn't yell and I didn't didn't curse. I just calmly asked her to pack her things and go. After she left, I comforted my son the best that I could. He didn't cry, but I could tell that it crushed him. Now here's where I may be the jerk. My two brothers and my sister found out I canceled the rest of our Mother's Day plans as we were supposed to go to brunch the next day. They're now calling me sensitive and saying I blew it out of proportion and that mom is just old school. But I don't care if she's from the 1920s. You don't say that to a child, especially not one who's literally never done anything but love her. So truly, am I overreacting for canceling the celebration and asking her to leave? Or am I just finally done letting her get away with emotional landmines? What should I do? Holy crap, this lady is super toxic. She literally said that to a 10-year-old. This 10-year-old kid didn't ruin her life. This kid didn't even do anything to her. Like, all he's done is try to be kind and considerate, and the original poster's mom just goes off and treats him like garbage for no good reason. And you know what? That is so disappointing. So no, you did not overreact because your son did not deserve that kind of treatment. Would I be the jerk for wearing deodorant even though someone may be allergic to it, namely my teacher who is apparently incredibly sensitive? Here's what's going on. Okay, so at the beginning of the second semester, we got a new teacher. This teacher said that she had a scent sensitivity and couldn't be around any perfumes or fragrances. Now, the people in my family have the same thing, so all my deodorant and my soaps are completely unscented. Well, I continue wearing this deodorant for months, and I sit in the front of the class. And you know what? This teacher has never seemed to react to it. Also, some of my friends put on scented products in the morning, and she never reacted to that even though you could clearly smell it. Well, yesterday I had a gym class and it ran over. I had to change into my school uniform and had no time to apply the deodorant. The bell rang and I was late for class. I reapplied the deodorant in the bathroom and then I went to class. However, I forgot to zip up my backpack. When I was in class, the deodorant fell out and the teacher saw the deodorant. She asked if it was scented and I said no. She then yelled at me saying that she was having an allergic reaction. But here's the thing, she definitely didn't look like it. Her breathing didn't change, no watery eyes, no stuffy nose, nothing. And she just taught the class like normal. I felt bad about it and I emailed her asking about what deodorant she didn't react to so I could buy it. But instead, I got a response saying that was inappropriate. And now a part of me thinks that she's just completely faking it. So would I be the jerk if I just continued wearing it? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, 100% that teacher's faking it. She's clearly lying since you've been wearing the same deodorant the entire school year, and only when she saw the stuff was she like, oh man, I'm having a reaction. And it's like, dude, you are so insane. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and if I was in your shoes, I would continue wearing it no matter what, especially if there's no scent to be accounted for in your deodorant. Did I overreact for leaving my boyfriend at a restaurant after he told the waitress that I was just the salad girl? Because right now he's saying that I humiliated him, and at this point, I'm not sure if I made the wrong decision. Here's what's going on. So I've been dating my boyfriend for almost a year. For the most part, things have been okay, but he has a sarcastic sense of humor that sometimes makes me feel small. I'm pretty quiet and I don't eat meat, which is just a personal preference, by the way, and I guess I can be a bit shy in social settings. Anyways, last weekend we went out to dinner with a few of his coworkers, and I'd never met them before and I was already nervous. When the waitress came to take our orders, everyone was getting steaks or burgers, and I just asked for a salad. That's when my boyfriend laughed and said, don't mind her, she's just the salad girl. She doesn't eat real food. After this, his coworkers laughed. One even said something like, better get used to rabbit food if you're staying with him. Now, I laughed awkwardly, but I felt humiliated. I already get comments from my family about my eating habits, and the fact that he joined in front of strangers really hurt. When the waitress walked away, I told him quietly that what he said wasn't okay, but he just brushed it off and said that I was being sensitive and to not embarrass him in front of his friends. So I stood up, said, enjoy your real food, and then I left and I took the bus home. He texted me nonstop that night saying I overreacted, that I made him look bad, and that I embarrassed him. His friends apparently asked what was wrong with me. Now I'm second guessing myself. I didn't yell or cause a scene. I just left because I felt small and disrespected. And at this point, I don't know if I made the wrong decision. Okay, honestly, you didn't embarrass this guy because he literally embarrassed himself. Why would he call you out like that? Like, he does know that you're his girlfriend, right? There's no good excuse for this. This guy's just a massive jerk. And he even did this in front of his new friends. Like, seriously? That is so uncalled for. So if I was in your shoes and my significant other did that to me, I probably would walk out too, because that really is incredibly embarrassing. Am I the jerk for not agreeing to split the bill for a Mother's Day dinner after my sister dropped it on me all of a sudden that I was going to pay $175 towards a bill that she never informed me about before? Because right now I am super pissed off, and I seriously am not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my mother texted my oldest sister and I that we will be going to a restaurant on Friday, so I agreed and made sure to free up my evening. Friday comes along and our party had 11 people in it, with 2 families at the table, including my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins. Near the end of the dinner, my sister stood up and went away somewhere, and when she came back, she had a receipt in her hand, so my mom asked if that's the bill she was holding. My sister announced that she went to pay, and that me and her were treating the table today for Mother's Day. And you know what? I was shocked because we never discussed that. She then handed me the bill and asked me to e-transfer her half the total, which was about $175. Well, back at our place, I told my sister that I couldn't afford that with all the bills, and that I did not agree to split the bill beforehand. She then proceeded to say that I'm ungrateful for our mom, and that as the older children in the group, we need to foot the bill. For more context, since the end of last year, I no longer live with my parents. I am in my 20s and currently live with my oldest sister, mainly because she wanted to move out and couldn't afford paying the mortgage and bills by herself. So my parents made me move out with her, and at the time, I didn't realize how expensive that will be. My sister now has a 6-figure job, whereas I have a way lower income, and basically I'm living paycheck to paycheck. That is no excuse for me not to pay, but I wanted to point out our different financial realities. Well, I haven't paid her yet, but I'm honestly considering not doing it. And at this point, I don't know if this makes me the jerk, and I seriously am not sure what to do. Dude, there's no way I would ever pay that bill. If my sister pulled that on me in front of the entire family, well then guess what? She's gonna be embarrassed in front of the entire family, because that is super rude and you do not deserve that at all. My manager literally demanded that I follow the script exactly anytime a customer calls in. So I did just that, literally pissing off everybody in the process, resulting in their stupid policy getting reversed in just a month's time. Here's what went down. Okay, so I work in a call center for a regional bank, handling everything from balance inquiries to fraud alerts. The job isn't glamorous, but most of us were good at it because we knew how to actually talk to people and calm them down. One day, corporate decided we were going off message way too much. They rolled out a new script, and we were required to follow it word for word. No improvising, no adapting to the customer's tone or urgency. We just needed to read the script. We all knew this would go very badly. One-size-fits-all language doesn't work when someone's card just got stolen or their mortgage payment didn't go through. But management was adamant. If you deviate from the script, it's a write-up. So I just complied and I did it religiously. One day, a customer called, clearly panicked. Someone just charged $800 at Best Buy on my card and I'm at work. I didn't do it. Please cancel it now. Well, I took a deep breath and I replied exactly as the script instructed. I'm so sorry to hear that you're experiencing this inconvenience. I'd be happy to assist you with that today. Before we begin, may I ask how your day's been going so far? There was dead silence and then the customer said, seriously? So I continued. We strive to provide exceptional customer service with every call. Can I please get your 16-digit card number to better assist you? The guy then actually laughed and said, oh, I hope they're recording this call. And you know what? They were. And so were 3 others that week, where I stuck to the script in these absurd situations. People locked out of online banking, someone whose check bounced, a woman crying because of a fraud lock on her account. Well, my supervisor pulled me into a room, looking annoyed but also kind of sheepish. She said to me, we've had some feedback. You don't have to follow the script that strictly. But I responded innocently. I said, oh, I thought it was a write-up if we deviated. She then responded, just use your own judgment, okay? And then after that, the script was officially optional within a month. And I can tell you, after going through this for just a little bit, I probably enjoyed this process way too much. Oh man, I relate to this so much because anytime one of those automated messages, or when like the customer service agent is doing this crap, my blood starts to boil in a way that seriously is not healthy. So good for you for showing these people exactly why this would never work, because this is something that they absolutely need to get through their skulls. Am I the jerk for asking my in-laws not to bring their dog to our house when they come into town, as I find the entire situation incredibly frustrating? Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband and I had our first child a few years ago. His parents, who live several hours away, started coming to visit once every few months to see their grandchild. The first couple of times they came over, they would bring their dog with them called Rover. At first, this didn't bother me, but then I started noticing that Rover had some habits that I didn't resonate with. For example, he likes to lick people while everyone eats at the dinner table, and then he rubs his you-know-what on your feet. Eventually, I decided to speak to my husband about how this bothers me, and he agreed that we would bring it up to his parents. Well, all 4 of us sat down and had a conversation about it, and they reluctantly agreed not to bring Rover to our house anymore. Well, the next time they came over, I was on a business trip, so they immediately brought Rover over with them. I then overheard them talking on the Ring doorbell about how they refuse to follow my house rules because they're stupid. I then reached out to my husband to let him know this hurt my feelings, to which he encouraged me to speak with them about it directly. So I sat down with them and I explained how that made me feel. Well, they did not apologize and simply stated that Rover Rover is very sweet, and I'm choosing a weird hill to die on. I ended up giving up because I just felt so defeated. Well, the next time they came to visit, Rover came along with them. I tried talking to my husband about it, but he shut down and became defensive and told me I was being overly difficult about it, so I just let it go. My in-laws are scheduled to come into town again this weekend, and when I asked about Rover, he confirmed that they will be bringing him with them. I feel bothered by this and I want to bring it up again, but I'm afraid that he will just shut me down again. So am I the jerk for asking and wanting them to find other arrangements for their dog when they come to our house? Because right now I'm really frustrated and I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is so toxic. First of all, you really need to stick to your boundaries, otherwise they're gonna walk all over it. And that's exactly what the in-laws are doing. And the fact that your husband's not supporting you is so stupid in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk for asking about this, because honestly, the way they're bringing their dog around is really weird. My entitled boss keeps saying he's gonna fire me for not doing my job, despite the fact that he gives me impossible jobs to do and impossible deadlines to meet. And after dealing with his verbal beating for weeks after I just started this job, I decided that enough was enough, as I pushed forward to not only complain to corporate, but also ruin this guy's life entirely in a way he has still never recovered from. And I honestly feel so good about the revenge I got on this jerk. Here's what happened. Okay, so a few years back, I got hired as a supervisor for a local government, and I was to help supervise about 10 employees. Above me was a manager, and he was a terrible leader, and would often yell at people, make slurs, and give impossible tasks or deadlines. On my third day in on the job, he yelled at me to learn how to do my effing job right in front of all the employees, and he even made snide remarks to other employees that he was going to terminate me on probation. He demanded that I keep a communication log with every task he assigned me and update it as I completed them. He also chastised me my first weekend for not having any questions emailed to him by the end of the week. He told me he expects me to send 3 questions every week until I'm off probation. The next week, I sent him 3 questions as required, and he replied back to look up the answers myself. He was literally out to get me. He would give me a task, then another one, and then ask me why I didn't get the first one done already. I also found out that he rode the old supervisor that way until he got enough dirt on him to terminate him. So it was at that moment I decided it was war. I kept a log of every perceived policy violation, broken rule, inappropriate comment, and people who witnessed it. I also engaged other supervisors and employees from other departments. After 28 days of employment, I was ready to quit. I kept a resignation letter in my car, and that gave me the power I needed to press on. After 28 days, I filed a formal complaint with Human Resources, and at the time, I convinced the other supervisor to do the same thing. After that, several employees filed complaints, and a group complaint was eventually filed. Well, Human Resources investigated the complaints, and the manager was placed on administrative leave. The investigation concluded that the manager did violate numerous policies, created a hostile work environment, and he ended up resigning. Ever since then, he has been burning bridges at every employer, literally 3 so far, and went from a manager of 15 employees and a great pension making $95,000 a year to a low-level labor employee making about $25 an hour in a hole-in-the-wall facility. And to be completely fair, he created his own problems, but in the end, I just happen to be the one person to help Human Resources see it and finally take action. Man, this is one of those satisfying moments when karma finally backhands the person who absolutely deserves it. I can't stand bosses who go on like power trips like this where they're like, okay, here's an impossible job that if you don't get done, I'm gonna fire you. It was literally your 3rd day and this guy's trying to be like, learn how to do your effing job. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? How about you train me to do my job and I might do it effectively? It really sucks, but I do understand why nobody complained about this, but it really begs the question, like, why did nobody say anything previously? Like, this behavior clearly has gone on for far too long. No one just goes into a job and says, okay, I'm now gonna be a monster to everybody around me. It's gotta be some slow roll situation where it's like, okay, he eventually got to this point, because there was obviously some tipping point where, yeah, they didn't do anything about this until it was too late. So from the bottom of my heart, I am so proud of the original poster because, my God, their boss absolutely deserved this punishment. And the fact that he's fallen from grace in such a major way, in my opinion, is exactly the way this should have ended. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My neighbors took a bulldozer to my yard, despite the fact that all of the property was clearly marked and they knew where the boundaries were at. And now at this point, I'm desperately trying to put up a chain link fence to make these people stop. Here's how it's going down. So my wife and I bought our home along with the empty lot between us and the neighbors. And this space was surveyed and boundary markers were placed. Well, a couple weeks after moving in, I go outside to find the boundary markers removed. Now, I had taken pictures, so it's not the end of the world. A few weeks later, I go outside at about 8 o'clock in the morning to find find my neighbor clearing the back of my empty lot with some bobcat thing. There was a lilac bush back there and a few small trees, and when I saw this, I told him to stop. He did, but a lot of damage had already been done. My wife and I decided to try and make the best of it, so we put down a couple $100s worth of native wildflower seeds. I mean, we had talked about doing something like that at some point anyways. Now, a couple days after putting down the seed, I run to the gas station. I'm not even gone 15 minutes, but when I return, the neighbors are out there putting grass seed and straw down where we just put wildflower seed down. And at this point, I lost it. I asked them what in the world they thought they were doing. They said they thought it would look better and that we should be thanking them for the improvements. They let their giant horse dog use our yard as a toilet and tried to turn the back of our yard into a circle drive for their giant trucks. They are insufferable. They have been saving money for some work that needs to be done on our house, but because of them, we had to drop $2,500 on a chain link fencing, and I've spent the last few weeks putting that up when I can. I'm tired and I just needed to vent because these neighbors are literally the worst. Oh man, that really is so frustrating. They're not taking no for an answer. They're going on your property regardless. Like, that would drive me insane, especially when you know for a fact this is your property. So hopefully you get that fence up sooner than later because these people sound incredibly annoying. An entitled family steals my seat to the Minecraft movie. So instead of getting upset and ruining this moment for my child, I decided to sit right behind them and allow my kid to make as much noise as possible as my form of petty revenge for them taking my seat. Here's how it went down. Okay, so my 7-year-old spent a full year excited to see the Minecraft movie. He knew it was to come out April 4th, but I bought tickets for an early showing on Thursday the 3rd. The plan was for me and his sisters to pull him out of school a few minutes early and surprise him, and it worked beautifully until we got to our seats. A week out, I purchased 5 tickets for right in the middle of row F. I chose this row every time in our theater because it's the first in a section. This means my kids won't be kicking anyone's seat or talking right in their ear and don't have to try and sneak past anyone to go to the bathroom. Well, when we got to the theater 15 minutes early, I found the entire row was taken up by a rather large family. There were also a lot of them too. I then told the matriarch of that family that I thought they were in my seats. I double-checked my receipt for the theater and time, and she maintained that she also had bought these seats. I then walked out and grabbed a 17-year-old usher that I wasn't very confident in the authority of. I told him that I don't mind sitting in the G row, I just don't want someone else to come in having reserved those seats and make me the interloper. The woman fumbled with her phone a little bit, hemmed and hawed, but nothing came of it. Keep in mind, this was a Thursday afternoon matinee, so there weren't a ton of people filling into the theater. My kids could tell something was going on, so in the interest of modeling conflict resolution and saving the moment, I decided we take the G row and see what happens. And this is when my petty revenge light bulb went off. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with chicken jockeys. It turns out it was only us and them in the theater, so I let my kids have a blast at this movie. I didn't shush them, I didn't care if they kicked the seats of the F row, I didn't care if they put their feet up, and I probably would not have cared if they threw a little bit of popcorn. But you know what? They didn't. And every time an F row interloper sighed and glared backwards, all I did was shrug, and it was glorious. After the movie, those people left behind all their popcorn buckets and trash, just like the scum that they were. Oh man, that's so stupid. Dude, you saved those seats ahead of time. You planned this out with your kid and you were trying to have like a good moment. And sure, you kind of saved it in the end, but those people had no business being in those seats. But good for you for getting some sweet revenge because it sounds like those people absolutely deserved it. Am I the jerk for reminding my mom's best friend of how awful her daughter is when she tried to criticize me, saying that I was a failure for living at home and that my job isn't good enough, despite the fact that her daughter is literally in jail? Because right now, my entire family is pretty pissed off that I said anything, and now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my family and I celebrated Mother's Day last night by hosting a dinner. My mom's best friend, who we will call Holly, joined up with us because they have been close ever since childhood. My uncle, my aunt, their partners, my cousins, and my grandparents were there, so in total, there was about 16 of us, and the older generation knew Holly very well. Now, I'm 30 years old and still living with my parents. Holly began to ask when I plan to move out, and I explained my position and the expected timeline. She then laughed and said her daughter, who we will call Sophie, purchased a house at 18 while studying, and even bragged about Sophie's prestigious career. Keep in mind her daughter's in her late 40s and the housing market was very difficult. She told my mom that she'd be embarrassed if her kids were still at home and implied that I was a failure and that my job is not that good. Now, Sophie's in jail for a petty, hideous crime. There's been a lot on our local news about the case, and she's currently working towards a shortened sentence and placing blame on the victim of her crime, very publicly, mind you, through her lawyer. And yeah, she had an impressive career up until this happened, but there is no way that she will be rehired after she is released. I looked Holly in the eye and I said that while I might not be in a fancy career like like her daughter, and I might still live with my parents, at least I didn't commit a crime. I told her that I think I know who my mom would prefer living under her roof. Holly ended up leaving not long after that, and it was obvious that she was in tears. My grandparents are now furious that I had the audacity to say this, and my uncle has sent a few strongly worded messages. My aunt and my mom are keeping silent, but my cousins are firmly on my side. They're all closer to my age and can empathize with my situation living at home. So seriously, did I do something wrong here? Because right now this is all incredibly frustrating. No, you are not the jerk. There's no way. If Holly's gonna dish it out, then she had better be ready to take it. Like, she literally said, "Oh, that is so embarrassing that you still live at home. You're a failure and your job is not good enough." Like, at that point, the gloves are off and I'm gonna say exactly what's on my mind as well about you. So no, Holly's a moron and there is no way that you're the jerk here. Because if she's gonna dish it, then she had better be ready to take it. Am I the jerk for reminding my friend that he makes 8 times as much money as I do? Because now after I said that, things are really awkward between us. And at this point, I'm not sure if I did something wrong. Here's how it went down. For a bit of background, my job doesn't pay the best, but I love the work. And obviously, I would like to be paid more. I was a listening ear to my friend a few years ago when he was looking for jobs. I heard him list all the pros and cons of each option, including the salary. So I know what his starting pay was at the one he settled on. It is literally 8 times more than my own annual salary. Our friendship is not influenced at all by our salary differences. We always split the bill, never pay for each other except for birthdays, all of which has worked out really well. I even house sit for him for free when he's away. Now that he has settled into his job, a job he will probably have till retirement, he has been complaining about it to me more and more. I listen, but I can't say I completely sympathize, mainly because I know I would happily deal with those problems if I got paid like him. He definitely is aware of how little I get paid because he has tried to help me look for new jobs, and I have commented on if the jobs paid more or less than my current salary. And no, we don't work in the same fields. Now here's where the incident really comes into play. When we were hanging out, we discussed about wanting to go to this particular thing on a weekday or work day. I brought up how my job is pretty flexible and I can be available after a certain time. He says to me, "Wow, you are so lucky, I could never do that." Then we kept discussing this thing and he kept reiterating how lucky I was and how it sucks that he can't. I eventually got annoyed and I said, "Dude, you literally make 8 times more than me. Would you say to an unemployed person that you are so lucky to have free time?" Well, after that, things got awkward and he hasn't been messaging me. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now things are really awkward. Okay, honestly, I do think you're kind of the jerk here. It sounds like he was just trying to find like some kind of common ground, because I'm sure he's acutely aware that yeah, he makes a lot more money than you do. And by the way, just because he makes a lot of money doesn't mean that he's happy. Like, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be bad to have that kind of money in your back pocket that you're describing. But just because he's making that doesn't mean that he's not full of problems just like anybody else at his job. So yeah, I can see why things got awkward, because the way you reacted to that is literally just a little uncalled for. So yes, I do think you're the jerk, and I think it would be best to probably apologize and try to make things right. Would I be the jerk if I told my brother the real reason our family fell apart? Because right now, my dad's trying to act like he didn't cheat, even though he did. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So about 3 years ago, my parents split apart and are currently undertaking divorce proceedings. My brother is currently living with my dad while I live with my mom, with their house only being about 20 minutes away from one another. Both my parents are very tense and are not civil during these proceedings. When they announced their divorce, I had learned that my mom had an emotional affair for a few months, and this had led to the divorce. This has led my brother to blame my mother for ruining the family and blaming her for the split of my family, and they are not currently speaking. However, I know that my dad had a physical affair before this occurred, and had heard him and his affair partner being physical in the house while mom was home. However, my dad does not know this information, or that I know he has cheated. My father is currently blaming my mother for splitting the family apart, and is one of the driving reasons for my brother not speaking to my mother, and says that she cheated on him. And it's like, yeah, he's such a hypocrite. So would I be the jerk if I told my brother the real version of what happened? Now, here's some things that need to be considered. My parents are underway with divorce proceedings, and if this causes many tensions between them, this can cause financial stress between the both of them, and my mom could lose lots of money. My mom is aware I know of the affair, however, is worried about any implications of telling anyone. Also, many people who have chosen my dad's side in the divorce are aware of this. What should I do? Okay, this is so sketchy. Like, your dad's a massive hypocrite. He's trying to be like, oh yeah, look what my wife did. This is why I'm getting a divorce. And he's holding this up like a shield so that he can't get blamed for anything that's going on, when in reality, he's a cheater too. They're both cheaters, like they're terrible people. So personally, if I was in your shoes, I know I would tell my brother and be like, like, look, this is what's really going on. Because your dad at this point is being so obvious about it. It's clear that he's trying to be like, oh yeah, this is so awful. I can't believe she did this. As if he's trying to take like the moral high ground. Like, this is so weird to me. Because he is just as guilty as your mom, and the fact that he's trying to act like he's not, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. Am I the jerk if I throw away someone else's remains if no one else from the family comes and claims this guy's ashes? Because right now I'm still very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so long story short, my roommate and I shared an apartment from 2018 to 2022. She was separated from her husband when he passed away in 2021. He was cremated, ashes were mailed to her, and she kept him in a box in a closet in the laundry room. In 2022, she bought an RV and moved to another city to be near her daughter and grandchildren. She asked me to hold on to the ashes and a few other things, namely pictures, clothing, and you know what? I agreed. She couldn't be near the ashes as they set her on edge and just rattled her. We had a falling out over money, more than $5,000, and I haven't heard from her since 2024 in September. I know she has some serious health issues that she's dealing with, and I really just don't want to talk to her, so my feelings aren't hurt. Well, fast forward, and I reached out to her son, a real estate agent in 2025, asking him about his father's ashes on Messenger. He responded, but has made no effort to retrieve the ashes either. Now, did I mention that she basically walked out from her youngest son? That she literally left living in an RV in my backyard? What was supposed to be a short-term favor has turned into 3 years of her 40-something schizophrenic bipolar self living on my 6 acres. Now, I would give him the ashes, but I don't think he would handle it well at all, and I don't know what kind of episode it could trigger. He took the death really badly, as his whole world as he knew it ended. He's never lived on his own, and he is not doing a very good job at it. Well, I said in February, if no one made arrangements to come get these ashes, then I'm putting them in the dumpster. So am I the jerk if I do that? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Okay, this is so weird because you did a favor for this person and then they walked out and had a falling out, all over money of all things. And now nobody's wanting to claim the ashes of a family member that is not yours? Like, come on now, this is so weird. So no, I don't blame you for being like, I'm gonna throw this out if nobody wants it. Because why would you hold on to it? You did it as a favor back in the day, but guess what? Times change and it's time to like move on or do something different. Because this is literally not your responsibility anymore and they need to step up and do something about it. Am I the jerk for wanting a photo at my wedding with only my bride and our biological parents without my stepmom present? Because right now at this moment, my stepmom is being incredibly difficult, saying that what I'm asking is rude and that she thinks she should be involved in the picture as well. But now I'm incredibly devastated because this has really blown my expectations right out of the water. And at this point, I'm so confused and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my wedding is later this month, and my wife-to-be and I would like to take photos of many configurations of family members, and it would mean a lot to us if at least one of those photos was of the two of us and each of our biological parents. My parents divorced over 10 years ago when I was in college. My dad remarried, but my mom has not. I love my dad, but I feel zero affection for my stepmom. I never have. She did not raise me and has only made life difficult for me, my mom, and my sister. However, I love my dad and I have accepted that if I want to maintain a relationship with him, then I have no choice but to tolerate her. I told my dad about the biological parents only photo that I want to take at my upcoming wedding, and he told me that his wife was being weird about that and refused to allow such a photo to be taken, but that he would talk to her to see if he could change her mind. Well, he called me back today and informed me that my stepmom absolutely refuses to allow my dad to appear in any photo with his ex-wife, especially if she isn't a part of it as well. She thinks that people will think they're still married, and that for me to even suggest such a thing is rude and disrespectful to her. Apparently, she has had prolonged, expletive-filled arguments with my dad over the idea that he could ever think of not taking her side on this. Now, I don't think I'm asking for anything unreasonable at all, and I think she's the one who is being selfish and disrespectful. I am not excluding her entirely from photos. She will be in many photos that day, but she is not my biological mother, and given how she has treated me and the rest of the family over the past decade, she should frankly be thankful that she was invited at all. All I want is one photo with my own parents on my wedding day, the one day in my life where I would hope that my fiance and I should get the final say. My fiance and her parents are completely on my side. She is upset and shocked that this is a conflict at all. Today, we had a call with the four of us, me, my fiance, my dad, and stepmom. On this call, my dad firmly said that he refused to appear in any photo with my mom without his wife right beside him. My stepmom even told me that, I know it's your day, but you need to think about how you make other people feel. She then told my fiance, who's from another country, that in America, this is considered very rude. My fiance tearfully argued with them, saying nothing that I disagreed with, honestly. honestly. The call ended with my dad saying, "Let us know if you still want us to come to your wedding." So seriously, am I the jerk for thinking my stepmom is being completely unreasonable and that my dad has let me down by siding with his wife over his own son and his son's wedding day? What should I do? Oh man, this is so messed up. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Your stepmom sounds like a monster and I can't believe she's swaying your dad like that. Like, of course no one's gonna think, "Oh wow, they're still married." Literally all they have to do is stand on either side of you and take the picture. It's not that big of a deal. Like seriously, it would be easy. And the fact that your stepmother just can't even see that no, this is not that big of a deal and it would be an easy photo shoot, like what, 2 seconds maybe? Like that's so crazy to me and I just can't understand why she wouldn't do that. There's also the option of like maybe photoshopping the stepmom out and placing the mom in there, but like that might be a little complicated. And from the sounds of it, it would probably ruffle more feathers than it would be worth. But no, you're not the jerk for thinking your stepmom is being irrational because trust me, she definitely is. An entitled brand new hire at the restaurant I work at is insanely rude and refuses to take any direction. Things have gotten so bad that she literally just doesn't do her job sometimes, leaving me and the rest of my coworkers on the hook as we have to finish her job up in order to close the restaurant. And at this point, I'm exhausted putting up with her antics that I'm seriously now considering talking to the owner. Here's what's going on. Okay, I just really need to get this out because I'm raging right now. Basically, I've been working at this restaurant for a few years and I'm working one of the busiest holidays of the year. Normally, I'm a server, but I was hosting and I was floor managing because we were short-staffed for the weekend, and that way I could kind of be a floater. I could be hosting, doing to-go orders, resetting tables, etc. Now, there were 2 servers on the floor, and one was a new hire who's been there for about 2 weeks, maybe. It gets insanely busy with the phones, the to-go orders, seating, and I'm updating the menus on the laptop all at the same time. Meanwhile, this girl is not paying attention to her tables and has multiple tables sitting there with no water and not being greeted for 10 plus minutes at a time. I turn around and she's standing there behind the bar just wiping menus slowly. Now, this is not important side work, especially during dinner service, nor is it necessary because I had plenty of clean menus. She even left one table outside without greeting them for 30 minutes, even though she had stepped outside twice and somehow had not talked to them. The entire night, me and the other server were taking care of her tables while I was also hosting and doing all the other things I mentioned. Additionally, the other server was on a double as well. The end of the night comes along and the new hire sits her butt down and is just doing roll-ups. So yeah, she's not helping break down the floor or anything, or even take in the outside furniture. Now the server that's on a double wants to talk to me outside and smoke, and I said to her, okay, sure. Let's grab the broom though and also sweep the outside seating while we do that. We were outside for maybe 10 minutes max. We come back inside and the new hire says, "Can you guys like get a move on and hurry up and finish closing? Because I'm doing all these roll-ups and I want to leave and have a birthday party to go to." And it's like, I'm sorry, but that's just not my problem. You should have taken today off then. I then said to her, well, we were outside sweeping, but all you've been doing is the roll-ups. And that's all you have to do, so once you're done, you can go. By the way, the roll-ups were almost done, even though there was still other closing duties to be done. So I thought that would be helpful to her leaving faster. She then starts talking back and telling me that I haven't done anything and acting like she's done so much today. I told her that I shouldn't even still be there because I was hosting, not serving. But because there was still closing stuff to do, I had to stay. She then tells me to leave. And now I'm like, girl, I have to do the money drop and do other shift lead things. To which she tells me, well, anyone can do that. At that point, I had to go to the kitchen because I thought I was going to fully flip out on her. No, not anyone can do that. You idiot. That's why I have to do it. And you don't know what you're talking about because you're new and you have no clue what you're saying. The other server told her to then clock out and go right then and there because the disrespect was just not tolerable. And she literally refused to leave when that was told to her. But it's like, wait a second, didn't you just want to rush out so badly? So now all of a sudden you won't leave? Anyway, in the end, she was just sitting there after doing the roll-ups, and I said to her, okay, you can now go for real. And she said to me, oh no, now my friends are running late, so I'm actually just chilling. And she sat there on her stupid phone and watched me while I swept the whole inside floor, which by the way is her side work and not mine. Now, I'm not trying to be harsh to her, and I dislike bickering with coworkers, and I'm not down with being rude to new hires or being annoying because they don't know things or anything like that. But what I can't stand is lazy, entitled, and rude people who come into an establishment thinking they know everything, especially one where we all have to help each other out, and they're just being awful and talking down to me when I'm busting my butt covering your tables all shift long and doing all of your side work. The best part of tonight though is I should have just cut the double server earlier, leaving the new hire to do closing duties alone, but she knew that she would be so awful about it that she said, no, someone's gotta close the restaurant down because she definitely won't won't do it. Now, I've tried to direct her and teach her how to do certain things by saying stuff like, hey, just letting you know I sat 2 people outside for you. Or I would say, just closing this table out for you. Can you please finish bussing their plates, please? And she would either just not do it or she's combative with me about things. Last week, her first week and second shift, she lost a check slip with the tip marked, and I asked her to please look at her apron or somewhere. She eventually told me that she threw it out on accident, but it was a cash tip. But it's like, why didn't you just tell me that in the beginning? So I tried to tell her, oh, it's okay, that's fine. And just so you know, even if it's a cash tip, we have to stab the CC slip so we know that it's not just a lost check, and we can avoid looking for it at the end of the night. I was very patient and very calm. No problems at all. I mean, this happens, you know? Well, she proceeds to pull me to the side a few minutes later and ask me, are we good? Do you have a problem with me? And when she did this, I was honestly flabbergasted. She then tells me I'm new and I'm just trying to learn. And I explained, yes, I'm trying to teach you. It seems that she just can't take any direction or criticism or anything well, and she's naturally a combative person. When I went to the owner about it previously, about her pulling me to the side and asking if she had a problem with me, she just said, no, she's just being funny. She's got a dry sense of humor. And I actually couldn't believe it. I told her there's no freaking way. That was not a joke and it wasn't funny. Now, at this point, I don't know if I should even bring it up this time to the owner or if I should just request to not be scheduled with her anymore and let the other shift leads deal with her instead. Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Dude, if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever want to work with someone like that. She's not doing her job, she's talking back, and literally only a few weeks into her job, she's trying to act like she knows how to do everything. Like, I don't know about you, but that would be super annoying, especially if I've worked there for several years. Like, I know how this place works. Why are you trying to act like you're gonna teach me how to do things? So for me, I absolutely would go to the owner. I would not think twice and be like, look, I do not want to deal with this lady. Either you need to do something about it or I'm gonna lose my mind, because this new hire's attitude is completely out of line, and she can either correct that or she has absolutely gotta go. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for moving out early after I learned that my horrible roommate is actually potentially terminally ill? Because right now I feel awful and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. For the last 6 months, I've endured living with what I thought was an incompetent, lazy individual. He would leave dishes in the dishwasher for weeks, pile up trash on the kitchen table, and keep his personal items all over common areas of the house. He also sleeps in the living room, even though he has a room, and blasts the TV until 4 in the morning on weekdays. He leaves his laundry in the washer for weeks, washing dishes with bleach and floor cleaner. And this is not even the worst of it. This is just a few things that I've experienced. Well, I recently learned after confronting my landlord yet again with a variety of issues that this roommate has high blood pressure, chronic heart disease, and end-stage kidney disease, and needs dialysis to live. While I was shocked and felt bad, especially because I ignore him completely, I'm a little upset that my landlord didn't disclose that he was basically in hospice care prior to me moving in. Overall, I'm starting to honestly understand his behavior more, and I have way more empathy. I think he should have done assisted living more than living with roommates, who, by the way, he is kind of dependent for care. Instead of staying, however, I'm in even more of a rush to move before my lease ends. I am a little freaked out by the whole thing, I must admit, mainly because for someone with a terminal illness, he doesn't eat well or take care of himself, and I'm scared to walk into the living room one day and he's just not even going to be breathing or something. Last night his breathing was so heavy, it was honestly scary. My landlord just got laid off and I could use the extra money, but I told him I'm moving out on the 1st of June anyways. I know this will leave my landlord with a financial burden, but I need to do what's best for me. My friend said I need more empathy, but I feel like prioritizing myself is more important. So seriously, am I the jerk? Because right now I feel really bad. Now, before we go any further, the original poster actually went on to say that based on the comments of this story, they learned that this guy's condition is not terminal and that basically he's just not dying, he's just chronically sick, which is a really good thing because then that would take away any guilt I would have about moving out. And sure, I totally get it, he's sick all the time and maybe he can't really take care of himself, but if that's the case, then guess what? He shouldn't be living with a roommate and he shouldn't be expecting them to like pick up the slack. That's really annoying and I know for a fact I would not want to deal with that. So I think your original motivation is completely fine. If anything, you're trying to escape a roommate who clearly is really being lazy and they're making your life really hard. And that, in my opinion, is not a bad reason to move out, like not at all in the slightest. Am I the jerk for saying my roommate's parents cannot live with us for a month? Because right now this is ruining all of my plans and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I recently moved into a 3-bedroom apartment and there are 3 of us living there. When I was interviewing for this place, one of my roommates mentioned that her family visits, so they are around sometimes, and then said nothing nothing else about it. It never occurred to me that she meant they stayed in the apartment instead of a hotel, and she never explicitly said that they stayed in the apartment, much less for 2 months out of the year. I had no idea about this until my other roommate informed me and told me that it had been going on for years, and it is quite uncomfortable with the mother and specifically the father staying here. It was vaguely mentioned to me in one offhand comment, but she was never told anything at all. When I found out, I went to the property manager to discuss the specifics of our lease and the guest policy, as it is a violation, and I wanted to understand the terms. We then had a conversation in person where I said the terms of the lease were acceptable, namely that they could stay 14 nights, but nothing longer when she mentioned that her parents typically stay for a month at a time. She said that she would honor the terms of the lease and gave us dates, but now she is lying and changing them. Now, I am subletting for the summer, so it has been known that I will leave the apartment and then return. Based on our most recent conversation, she would not give a straight answer and said that she was stretching out the time they would be spending spanning a month, and they would return to stay again a few weeks after that. Now, the current roommate who is staying is also very upset, as the parents' visit will now span a month and a half, almost the entire summer. The other issue is that I'm having trouble finding someone to sublet my apartment because of these changes. I was willing to lose a few $100s to cover the half month that we were told at the beginning of the summer, but now that she's changed the dates, it will cost me at least a month or a month and a half's rent, which is now thousands of dollars. We tried to speak to her to come to some kind of solution, but she's completely refused. And the more that we discuss this, the more we are realizing that she was always planning on having them stay for longer after I left. My final word on the matter was that she has already violated the lease this term by having them stay for a month in the winter, and I don't want to evict her, but I will not lose money over this. They can come for the planned dates for 2 weeks, but no longer. The property managers are aware that this has been an ongoing issue, and they have offered to help. We have tried twice to have a conversation with her, threatening eviction being our last resort, but she clearly does not respect our space, our money, or the lease. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Oh man, I would absolutely escalate this dude. There's no way I'm gonna put up with this. This roommate's literally breaking the lease by allowing them to stay the entire summer, basically. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live with someone else's parents for the summer. That sounds miserable, and I would hate that. So no, you're not the jerk for saying that they can't have their parents over for that long, because at that point, they might as well just start paying rent. I received $25,000 as a gift from my illegitimate grandfather that I can only use for large purchases. And right now, I'm pissed off that every single penny isn't in my pocket so that I can use it as I please. And I'm wondering if this makes me the jerk, because right now I kind of feel bad. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I grew up in an upper middle class family. The way that my parents raised me was negative punishment. They would take away the thing that I valued the most to get the results that they wanted. When I was 12 years old, it was my Xbox. When I was 14, it was my free time during the summer. And when I was 16, it was my dad's car. It was a 1999 Subaru Outback, but it was my means of relative freedom. And you know what? Fair enough. I got my first job when I was 17 years old and immediately started to practice and learn how money works in capitalist America. I got very good and now live mostly on passive income. Yesterday, my mother told me that her biological grandfather, the one that she tracked down through those family tree gene testing sites, the one that slept with her mother while actively engaged to another woman, and the one that I didn't even meet until my early 20s, had decided that he has too much money and wants to give $25,000 to each of his grandchildren. But here's the catch. The money has to be used for a large purchase like a house or a new car. Well, moving forward to today, that $25,000 is supposedly going to me, but my parents have decided that it will go into an account in my name under my father's social, managed by his financial advisor, in a fund that I get no say in. I complained and said, can I at least pick the fund? And my mother said no, to which I sighed and put my head on the table, to which she said, you could be more grateful, you know. And my sister said, it's $25,000, just take it as it is. To which I said, but it's not my money like that. To which my mother seemed very disappointed and didn't say anything else. So I understand that it's 100% a first world problem, and I understand that $25,000 is a lot, but I've always craved freedom and autonomy. I hate gifts, especially from people that don't know anything about me. I don't want a gift like that because it feels soulless and completely in the control of my parents and not me. It makes me feel like a child, petulant as I may be, and I don't need $25,000 for a down payment on a house. I need the income on paper. So it's a gift that I don't need. I can't use it in my own way, and I cannot touch it when I want to do things that I believe would be of good use for that money, like traveling to see my illegitimate grandfather, or traveling to Eastern Europe with my friend to see the world. That to me, regardless of the fact that it's $25,000, doesn't feel like a gift. A gift shouldn't make you feel controlled like you're a child, right? So am I the jerk for not being more more grateful? Mind you, the only reason I'm posting this is because my mother made me feel bad, and I want to appease her because I have mommy issues with this whole control stuff. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I don't see this as such a big deal. I don't think you're the jerk for not being more grateful, but like, honestly, just use the money for a house or something. Or even use it for like a car. Like, this obviously is something that you can use and not just something you can blow on like going to travel to Europe or something. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for not being more grateful. I just think it's kind of annoying that you're trying to make this into something that it's not. Because at the end of the day, you have $25,000 waiting for you for a house or a car. And just because you can't get your hands on it now doesn't mean that it's not something you can use later on. An entitled old jerk interrupts my boyfriend's little sister's college graduation as he literally scoffs at every single speaker that walks up there that isn't white and also a man. And I'm honestly blown away by this guy's actions. Here's what happened. So I'm currently sitting in front of a very loudly talkative old man. I'm at my boyfriend's little sister's college graduation. This dude has been making comments at every speaker, except the old white man, of course, because yeah, that's the same demographic as him. One of the final student speakers came up, and she had a heavy Arabic accent. And at this point, I'm sure you can see where this is going. As soon as she was at the speaker stand, he starts loudly saying, "Oh great, more yakking." Keep in mind, the biggest yacker in our entire section is him. She's giving a great speech, and he keeps interjecting more than usual. Random little outbursts of disrespect. She starts talking about her struggle when she fled her home country in the Middle East for refuge here, and how she was so grateful to be graduating college when girls in her homeland can't even go to school. Well, this old man then actually scoffs quite loudly and says, "Who cares?" And it's like, bro, you better believe I whipped my head around at him and I said, "Are you serious right now?" And I did this with the nastiest look I could muster. He shut up finally for a few more speakers, even though he's still currently mumbling random crap because some of these old people in the audience just can't understand the respect of being quiet for at least an hour when it's not about you. I'm honestly so sick of this guy and I can't wait to get away from him. Oh man, I can't believe there's no like ushers or someone to be like, "Hey buddy, you gotta shut up or you gotta go." Because this is literally an event. What are you doing heckling the people talking? Like, this guy's trying to be like, "Oh yeah, who cares about this lady who struggled in life?" And it's like, dude, apparently the school and everybody else, because everyone's listening intently and you're the only guy who, by the way, is acting super racist about it. So good for you for saying something because this guy is absolutely out of line. My psycho downstairs neighbor screams all the time, so I decided to get some petty revenge by returning the favor by blasting black metal down through the floor through my speaker. Here's how it went down. I've been living in a middle floor apartment, and for months I've been hearing screaming and swearing. Now this wouldn't be a problem if it was infrequent. We all have bad days, I totally get it. However, my building is a renovated factory building, so the floors and walls are practically soundproof. I've done my best to be a considerate, quiet neighbor. I work long hours and travel often for months at a time, so I only met the apartment next to mine a month ago. However, the neighbor has been at this very consistently, at least 3 times a week for the past couple of months, and I left a polite but anonymous note thinking it was upstairs after the screaming started at 6 in the morning after I had a shift that finished at 2 o'clock, and they wrote on the same note saying wrong flats. So the next time the screaming started, I went out into the communal courtyard and I realized it was downstairs. Well, you know what upstairs neighbors are really good at? I returned to my flat and began stomping around, and then I put my speaker to face the floor and played a quick burst of black metal. Well, the screaming stopped, and sure, he did scream again a couple of hours later, but I rinsed and repeated, and guess what? I've heard nothing since, and hopefully it stays this way for the foreseeable future. Dude, if there's one thing that I cannot stand about living in an apartment, it's literally dealing with noisy neighbors. Because I'm just like the original poster, I totally get it, some ordinary noise is normal, but when you're doing that crap past midnight, like, I'm sorry, but there's no excuse. Like, at that point, just be quiet. Because if you respect me, then trust me, I will happily respect you. But I love the way the original poster handled this because these people absolutely deserved it. Am I the jerk for blowing up at my sister after she quite literally named her daughter after a fungal infection? Because right now she's saying that I'm overstepping the line by saying anything, and right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my sister and her husband have been struggling a lot with baby names. She was determined to find the single perfect name. Even by the time her baby shower nearly 5 weeks before the due date, she didn't seem any closer to picking something out than she was at the start of her pregnancy. Anyways, I knew she was struggling. So in addition to the $900 wooden crib on her list that I got her, I gave her a list of obviously joke baby names. We have a really close relationship, and it was in line with both of our senses of humor. She's a nurse and I'm a biology student. So all the names were medications, infections, unpleasant animals, etc. And they all sounded like lovely girl names out of context. Some of them were a little bit obscure, sure, but I included some obvious ones like Viagra and hernia for good measure. Well, 2 weeks later, she told me that she and her husband had finally settled on a name. And well, Well, she decided on maliciouscompliance. Yeah, the baby's name is maliciouscompliance, one of the names on my joke list. Outside the immediate issues, it's also the name of a very common fungal infection, one that my sister and I are both genetically predisposed to, one that we've both had multiple times throughout our lives, and her daughter will almost certainly catch it at some point. I pointed it out to her and she said yes. She knew what it meant and she knew my list was intended to be a joke, but she just really liked the way it sounded. I don't think the husband knows what it means, and I think he'd reject it if he did. She says that it's so obscure that no one will ever think twice about it. Except, you know, when little baby maliciouscompliance turns 14 years old, finds a weird spot on her neck, and goes on her phone to Google what it is. I told her that the name was completely unacceptable, and I was shocked that she chose it. I even suggested some similar names, like Mallory or Azalea or Anastasia. That would be way more acceptable, but she literally wouldn't hear it. She said that since I'm not one of the parents, I have no business telling her what she can and cannot name her child, and that apparently I'm stepping way out of line. I think it's pregnancy hormones, and she'll regret the decision very soon after her daughter is born. So am I the jerk for blowing up on my sister about this? Because right now I feel incredibly upset and I don't know what to do. Dude, your sister's really dumb. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, that is a terrible name. Dude, don't name your kid a fungal infection. What is going on right now? That's a terrible idea. They would be better off with one of the classic names that kids definitely should not be named, that typically rhyme with some kind of curse word. Like, that would be better for the kid than being named a fungal infection. They're gonna learn basic biology one day and be like, wait a second, what did my parents do to me? So no, you're not the jerk for blowing up your sister, because if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. My entitled coworker literally steals all of the office supplies, taking it all for herself, all because she's worked there for 15 years. But as a result of her thievery, they forced her to start working from home indefinitely, ensuring that she would never be able to steal any office supplies ever again. Here's what happened. So I've been working at this marketing firm for about 3 years now, and for the most part, my colleagues are great. Well, everybody except for someone I will call Diane. Diane sits 3 cubicles down from me and has worked here for 15 years. She constantly reminds everyone of her seniority and acts like it entitles her to special treatment. But what's been driving me absolutely insane lately is her bizarre obsession with office supplies. Last Tuesday, I needed a stapler for an important client presentation. Mine had mysteriously disappeared from my desk the week before, which is already super suspicious. So I walked over to the supply cabinet and it was empty, not a single stapler in sight, even though we had just had a supply delivery the previous day. I asked around and someone we will call Madison from accounting mentioned that she had seen Diane carrying a box to her car during lunch. Curious, I casually strolled by Diane's cubicle later that afternoon, and what I saw stopped me in my tracks. Behind her desk, partially hidden by a filing cabinet, was a mountain of office supplies. I'm talking at least 6 staplers, dozens of notebooks, countless pens, and even 3 of the new wireless mice that IT had been saying were back-ordered when I requested one last month. The next morning, I discreetly mentioned to our office manager, who we will call Jen, that I couldn't find any staplers. She sighed deeply and said, "Let me guess, you need other supplies too?" When I nodded, she lowered her voice and said, "This happens every quarter. Diane takes everything and claims she needs backups for her important projects. I've ordered replacements, but they won't arrive until next week." But yesterday, things finally came to a head. I was printing materials for a client meeting when the printer displayed toner low. I went to grab a replacement cartridge, but of course there were none, and my meeting was in 30 minutes. Desperate, I walked to Diane's cubicle and I politely asked if she might have an extra toner cartridge, and she literally looked at me like I'd asked for her firstborn child. She snapped at me and said, "Why would I have printer toner at my desk? That's ridiculous." Just then her phone rang. As she turned to answer it, her chair bumped into the tote bag behind her desk, and I clearly saw 3 toner cartridges inside. Now at this point I was fuming, but I kept my cool. After her call, I simply said, "Diane, I can see the toner cartridges in your bag. The entire office needs supplies to do their jobs, not just you." Well, when I said that, her face turned bright red. "I've been here for 15 years. I need these supplies for my special projects. You newcomers don't understand how things work here." By this point, several colleagues had stopped to watch the commotion. Jen from office management appeared, took one look at Diane's hoard, and said firmly, "Diane, we've talked about this. Please return the supplies to the cabinet immediately." Diane huffed dramatically, muttering about ungrateful coworkers and no respect for seniority, as she reluctantly handed over 1 toner cartridge. Later that afternoon, an email went out from Human Resources about a new supply checkout system being implemented, and this was effective immediately. I also noticed the janitor installing a lock on the supply cabinet. Now, the best part about it is that this morning, I arrived to find Diane's cubicle completely empty, with a small note from our manager saying that she would be working from home indefinitely. The supply cabinet is now fully stocked, and mysteriously, everyone's missing missing items have reappeared, which really goes to show you that some people's entitlement truly knows no bounds. Oh my gosh, this is so obnoxious. I would never want to work with someone like that, but also I have definitely worked with some Dianes in my life. They take all the supplies and they try to be like, no, I need it more than you do. I've worked here longer. And it's like, dude, I just need a pen. I literally need one pen so I can do my job. Can you please give over one pen from the office? Why do the Dianes of the world try to act like, oh yeah, all this is mine because I've been here longer? That is so annoying, and honestly, I would hate to be back in that situation because when I dealt with my Diane, it was an absolute nightmare. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to sign my parents' house, which is under my name, over to my wife if I were to pass away? Because right now, I feel like there's some sketchy things going on, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, for a bit of backstory, in 2008, my parents lost most of their money, and it eventually got to the point where we were no longer able to afford their house. My dad is quite a bit older than my mom, and his biggest worry is that he is not able to leave her enough money so that she can live and pay for a home or even rent without having to financially rely on me and my sister. So this is the plan that we came up with. We found a house with a large lot that we bought under my name. My parents put down a significant amount of their savings for the down payment for the property and to build a detached accessory dwelling unit for them to live in. I lived in the main house for a while, and my parents lived in the attachment. The agreement was once I moved out, we would rent out the main house. I would be responsible for the main house, the maintenance, the repairs, etc., and my parents are responsible for the attachment. We would split any property taxes not covered by the rental of the other property. Now, I live in an expensive area, so my parents will have a place to live for the rest of their lives with no stress about becoming homeless. And I end up with a great investment property that I already have quite a bit of equity in. I have the house in a trust. In the event of my untimely death, the ownership of the house will transfer to my parents and then transfer to my partner and my offsprings once they pass away. Well, my wife wants to change the trust to have the deed of the property go to her instead of my parents. She says she will of course let them live there, but wants control of the property if I pass away. Now, I feel really uncomfortable signing over the house my parents paid for over to her. Even though it's in my name and I'm spending some money on property taxes and maintenance, I consider it their house since they have paid for everything. Part of the reason I feel uncomfortable is because when we were updating our life insurance policies once we got married, she made sure I removed my parents as beneficiaries and added her as 100% beneficiary, but then refused to add me as the same thing for her policy and had 100% of it going to her sister. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to sign the house over to her? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I kind of think that yeah, you would be the jerk if you did sign it over, because this house really was funded by your parents. Like, in my opinion, they have the most money in this, so like, why would you not give it over to them first? And for me, it's also a big red flag that she didn't sign you up as like her life insurance person or whatever, because that is really weird. Like, you guys are married after all, right? So no, I don't think you're the jerk here, because if I was in your shoes, I would probably be doing the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my boss's kids eat my food? Because after their mom blew up at me, I feel like I'm literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 19-year-old female, and in February, I arrived in the United States as an au pair. If you don't know how the program works, basically you're hired as a nanny, but you're not paid a lot for it, maybe $196 a week, because the family gives you a place to stay and food in their house, and they also pay for your studies. It was the only way that I could afford to have the exchange experience, and I really wanted to take this chance, so I came along. The two kids I take care of are great. We talk a lot, and I already learned so much from them. The problem though that I have is with their parents. Since I arrived, they told me that I'm only allowed to eat the items from one cabinet and nothing else. They will only replenish it once a month, and they have cameras and will see if I try anything. I don't know if this is true, but I wouldn't steal anyways. In my cabinet, there are just tortillas, a few canned vegetables, beans, and mac and cheese boxes. No snacks or drinks or cheese or any meat like chicken. There's literally nothing like that. I talked with my agency here, and they told me that the family is allowed to do that as long as they give me food, and I can try to match with another family and wait for the process or go back home. And since I didn't want to give up, I decided to stay. But the food thing was really getting to me, so I started to use the money to put things in my cabinet. But the problem is that they are super healthy, and they don't let their kids eat cookies or chips or beef jerky or anything like that. Now, I wasn't trying to eat in front of the kids on purpose, but I spend most of my day with them when they aren't in their classes, and I get hungry, so I eat in front of them. And eventually, they've started to ask me to eat too. My money doesn't get me very far, and my parents have no way of helping me. And these snacks can last for days days when I pace myself. So I just told them that they would need to ask their parents for snacks because I don't have a lot to share. Well, when they did ask their mom blew up at me in front of them, telling me that I had the audacity of denying her kids food inside of her home. That apparently if I ate in front of them, I had to share, and that I couldn't bring this kind of junk into her home. I couldn't really say anything in fear of her just dumping me on the street, but I told her that I didn't have enough money to buy an amount that I could share with her kids, or buy something that's healthier, and that I would really like to share mine if they would share theirs. And I meant the food the family eats. I don't ask the kids for their snack food or anything like that. She said I was lucky she really needed a nanny, and then that was that. I told my parents about it, and they think that she's wrong. But also, I'm in the wrong for how I dealt with it, and for taking it out on the kids when it's not their fault. My other friends in my program also think that I'm the jerk for denying food to the little kids. So seriously, am I at fault in this situation? Because I seriously am not sure what to do. Okay, I gotta be completely honest with you right now. I just don't think this is a good living environment in the slightest. I know you're like trying to stick it out and be like, okay, maybe I can make this work, but like seriously, this just doesn't seem like a good place to live at all. If I was in this kind of program and they were even like hinting at the fact that I might be kicked out on the street, you know, in a country that I don't really know anything about, then my God, I would be getting out of there so fast, like it's not even funny. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for not giving up your snacks, but also I would definitely start hiding food in your room and only eat it in there or something like that, especially if you can't get out of there sooner than later, because these people sound like they really suck. Today, I was chewed out at work for over 30 minutes, all because of some files that were sent to me by somebody else that apparently I wasn't supposed to have. So I decided to maliciously comply with these people by scaring them in such a way that would make them backpedal away from me altogether. Here's what went down. Okay, so I work as an engineer for a company that assigns me to various client projects. For one such assignment, I was added to a project that wouldn't start for a few weeks. So in the meantime, I stayed focused on other outgoing work. A few days before the project was due to begin, the external project lead sent me a zip file containing technical documentations, namely diagrams, requirements, and other materials relevant to the upcoming project. I skimmed through it briefly and then I moved on with my day, and it really was nothing unusual that I would spot. A couple days later, I got an email from the external company's scheduling manager saying that a document had been sent to me which apparently contained some confidential company information, and they were asking me to delete the email. And I just thought to myself, okay, that's fine. No file name, no explanation, just a vague please delete it. So I shrugged and I deleted the zip file and replied asking if they could resend it without the problematic part, and then I just forgot all about it. Well, that is until I got a call from the most condescending, passive-aggressive person I've ever dealt with in my life, namely the scheduling manager from the client side. She went on a 30-minute tirade about how the previous project lead never should have sent me that document, how serious the situation was, and most memorably, how she couldn't trust that I had actually deleted it. She said, "I just can't take your word for it. I'm not just going to trust you because you say so." And when she said this, at that point, I thought to myself, okay, I'm done with you. If you're going to act like I've just been handed the nuclear launch codes, then I will treat it as such. I responded by saying, "You're absolutely right. I'll contact our security operations team and report a formal security incident. They can coordinate with you, and together we can do a full scrub of all relevant mail servers to ensure the document is completely gone. It's really the only way to be certain." Well, when I said that, suddenly her entire tone changed. "Oh, no, that won't be necessary. It's fine. I believe you." She practically stumbled over herself trying to shut it down, because as she knows, escalating this to both companies' scrubbing teams would have turned into a bureaucratic nightmare, incident reports, compliance reviews, and probably someone getting thrown under the bus. I then politely reiterated that I really don't mind escalating if it would give her any kind of peace of mind, but she very quickly decided that she had enough peace already, and we ended the call and life moved on. So truly, if you act like I've compromised national security, don't be shocked when I offer to treat it like a national security incident, because at that point, you're just asking for trouble. Oh man, I love people like this at work because they're so easy to rile up. Like seriously, they suck at their job. They frame everything as the end of the world, and the second you reciprocate that and you're like, oh my gosh, you're right, that's the second they backpedal and they're like, oh wait, never mind, I wasn't that serious. It's like, dude, you most definitely were. You just chewed me out for 30 minutes about, oh, I don't believe you if you actually deleted it. Like at that point, I would have taken her word for it and been like, okay, I'll take care of it, you got it, and then push this forward to something that she really didn't want. So I just love the way she backpedaled in this scenario, because you know for a fact that she was regretting her decisions almost immediately. An entitled Karen loses her mind at our fast food drive-thru after she finds out that we have to charge her for every mayonnaise packet that she was asking for, which is just one of the many things that I've seen people freak out about while I've worked in fast food. Here's what went down. Okay, when I was in high school, I worked at a very popular fast food restaurant. Now, I don't care what anyone else says about fast food, food, it is not an easy job. Franchise owners and management made it very clear that we were easily replaceable. Customers often lost their minds on us over things that were completely out of our control. While I felt like a baller making $10 an hour, looking back, I have no idea how the adults that worked with me were surviving on that kind of paycheck. Shift managers made an extra 50 cents an hour, which to me would not make it worth it. But anyways, my favorite person to work with was a woman who we will call Cindy. She had a pretty hard life, and I was always amazed by how kind she was to everyone, despite how badly she was treated. Cindy took a lot of pride in her work, just an all-around good person. Now, I was in the kitchen and Cindy was taking orders on the drive-thru, and a woman who is the Karen of the story ordered a couple of chicken sandwiches and was already being nasty over the intercom. When she got to the window, she asked Cindy for some mayonnaise packets, and Cindy explained that there was a 20-cent charge for each packet, which by the way, none of us wanted to charge anyone for packets, but they were counted, so giving away free mayonnaise wouldn't be worth losing our jobs. The Karen then threw a tantrum and started berating Cindy, then demanded that we take back the sandwiches and put extra mayo on them so she wouldn't have to pay any extra. And you know what? I was absolutely delighted, because I slathered at least an inch of mayonnaise on each side of those stupid chicken burgers. It's honestly just so sad that I didn't get a chance to watch her bite into it, because that is simply way too much mayonnaise for anybody's sandwich. Man, I 100% agree with the original poster here, because fast food sounds miserable. I've never personally worked in like a fast food restaurant before. I've always done like sit-down restaurants and been a server or like a busboy, so I can only imagine the things that you go through in the fast food industry, because like I've heard stories and they are all like terrifying. Like it's proof right then and there that customers truly are insane. They don't know what they want and they're irrational about it every single time. And the Karen in the story absolutely fits the bill. My entitled rich friend tries to make her way back into my life in the same way she tried to interject herself into my friend who ended up passing away. But I decide to shut it down before it even starts, because this woman is literally so insufferable. Here's what went down. Okay, so I have a very small ranch in California. I used to own a brush clearing business using goats. I haven't done that in years, but I still have 2 elderly mini goats. Yesterday, I got an email from a friend I've known since high school. We're both older now and she lives overseas and also has a massive house in Malibu with a lot of land. She comes from a family with a known name that was one of the wealthiest in California. She inherited millions of dollars and she has never for a minute lived without. The email let me know that she was in town to deal with her Malibu house as her land was damaged by our recent fires. She then asked if I could bring my goats over to munch on the brush on her land. Now, I haven't heard from her in over a year. No talk of pay, no explanation. In fact, the email was written as though she was doing me a friendly favor and that it would be no big deal for me to haul 2 goats over to her place, spend a few days overseeing them eating, hauling them back and forth at night, you know, as a favor for free. I then explained that my goats were old and that I didn't really do that anymore, that the work involved with doing something like this was pretty extensive. Well, no apologies were forthcoming. Instead, she was pissed off and wanted to know if I knew anyone else who would do that for her, and I'm willing to bet she's looking to have it done for free. Well, I told her that I didn't know anyone with goats. Now, for the record, I do, but there's no way I'm gonna subject them to this entitled woman. She abruptly said thanks and that was it. She didn't say, oh, let's get together, I'm in town, or even, oh, it would be nice to see you again. All she said was, just let me use your goats for free, why won't you do that for me? Now, this same woman years ago descended on a mutual close friend who was passing away. She insisted on staying at the dying friend's house, taking up all of the woman and her family's time, energy, and resources, to the point that she had to be asked to leave because she was imposing so much. At that time, I had to cancel my long-planned and paid-for trip to see my very close friend, all before she died, because this woman drained all of their energy. So my best friend died without seeing me because of this woman and her entitlement. At the funeral, only my dead friend's family were supposed to speak, but the Malibu woman had written a 3-page speech that she really thought she was going to give, because she considers herself family. When she got up and tried to head to the front of the church to speak, my dead friend's brother finally had enough. He stood up, grabbed this woman by the arm, and forcefully dragged her back to her seat. I mean, he was furious. Well, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, but the sheer entitlement of some people who were clearly born into money never fails to shock me. Oh man, I cannot stand people who act like this. They literally only pop up when they need something. Otherwise, they are literally just a ghost. They just don't even show up anywhere. They're not there for you if you need them. They're not there to like, I don't know, pick you up when you're down. They are just a straight up leech through and through. And that is so disrespectful in my opinion. Like honestly, I just hate that so much. So good for you for not recommending this person to anybody that you do know, because this behavior is absolutely unacceptable. I'm now finally about to move out at the age of 28, and my mom is not taking this well, as she is clearly hurt and disturbed by this, as she is now giving me other options in some kind of desperate attempt to make me stay close to her. Here's what's going on. on. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm 28 years old and I'm about to sign a lease with my fiance. I've always lived with my parents except for when I went to university, but even then, most weekends I would be back home, as it was only a 50-minute bus ride. Now, my parents, especially my mom, are super protective. I am an only child and I never really got the freedom I deserved. They've always wanted control over me, like where I work, what I do, and where I go, etc. And my mom is super worried about my well-being. She doesn't like that I have to travel to work sometimes long distances and all this other stuff. She had this idea in her mind that was ideal, where I move in with them with my wife and have a family at their place. But surprise, surprise, we don't want that. I love my parents, but I also need my own space. I need my own life and I need to learn things. When I told them yesterday about our plan of moving out, she immediately started tearing up, her voice getting cracky, and she stopped talking to me the rest of the night. She was clearly upset, although she didn't protest against it. They also gave us alternative options, like moving into their house, and they would move into a smaller place nearby my dad's work, and again, they just wanted control over what we would do. She's acting very much like a stranger now. She's acting like I want to move out because I hate her. I mean, she's clearly hurt. I'm not sure how to approach this situation now, and I'm scared that she will make comments that may lead to arguments. It is incredibly awkward to approach her. She's not ready for me to move on and almost makes me feel guilty for doing so. Like I said, they've always been controlling. The typical guilt trip you might expect. I have a good job, I'm financially stable now, but she doesn't see this and instead wants me to remain in her nest. So how do I approach this situation? Because right now I'm honestly frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, you're 28 years old. The fact that your mom wants you to live there with your family, like that is completely out of the question. And I don't blame you for being like, no, that's not gonna happen, we're moving out. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would just embrace the fact that she's probably gonna say something. She's gonna find some unhinged comment to throw my way just to get under my skin, to then instigate an argument and then justify why you're leaving. And I totally understand where you're coming from. It sounds like your mom is super controlling and that is the worst thing on planet Earth. Her care becomes like this obsession where it's like, okay, I need to live my own life. I've got my own job, I've got a fiance, I'm 28 years old, like it's time for me to move out. And truly, if your living circumstances were different, where like you needed the help or something like that, then sure, stay with your parents. But it seems like that is not what's going on here, so yeah, it's time for her to move on. But regardless, that really is something that she's gonna have to deal with, because clearly you know what you want, and that clearly does not involve living right next to your parents. My rich millionaire friend literally dined and dashed in the middle of our lunch date, leaving me and my girlfriend with a bill that we literally could not pay for. And I am seriously pissed off at the way they ditched us right when we needed them the most. Here's what happened. So I've grown up with very little spending money, so this was a really strange situation for me. My girlfriend at the time was best friends with this girl who was the daughter of the largest newspaper company in my area. So to say that he was rich is an understatement. He had a beachfront property right in the heart of Cocoa Beach, and her mansion is where we met her to go out for this girl's birthday lunch. I wanted my girlfriend to have a good date still, so I was very clear. I was only paying for my girlfriend and myself before we made plans even. Well, when we get our bills all separated like we talked about, everything was going great. We were laughing, talking about plans afterwards, going back to the girl's house for a pool party, etc. But this is when she says they left their wallets in the car and would be right back. Well, 30 minutes later and they're nowhere to be found. It's just me and my girl sitting and waiting. I paid my tab, a pizza and 2 drinks, like maybe $35, and including the tip, I spent about $50. I only had about $100 to start, and I figured that's plenty for a lunch date. Well, the other two ordered 2 appetizers that they didn't share, each costing about $15. They also had 2 steak entrees at $50, and they had drinks. So their tab alone was closer to like $100 after taxes. So we sat another few minutes trying to call, as the waiter gently asked us to get up and sit at the bar, since obviously they wouldn't let us leave until the bill was paid. I only had $50 cash with no credit cards or debits, and for a long time I was a cash-only person. In fact, my girlfriend didn't even bring any cash either. I talked with the waiter and he lets my girlfriend walk back to the car to see what's taking them so long, and it's then that we found out that they left us and they're the ones that drove us. She then comes back and is like, yeah, they left and they're not answering their phones. I then had to call a buddy of mine to cover the bill and give us a ride back to get my truck from their mansion. And I'm lucky I had a good friend, and honestly they came in clutch. And this friend was really pissed off. After he dropped me off, he did donuts in their gravel parking lot, throwing rocks onto multiple different high-end vehicles before speeding off. So yeah, that's how I got left on hold for a bill for some stuck-up entitled millionaire, which is something I won't forget anytime soon. Dude, if you do not like blast these people on social media in some kind of way, then I just don't think you're living life the way you should. Because this kind of behavior, especially from someone who can afford to like pay for their lunch is absolutely unacceptable. The moment that happened, I would have been like, okay, let's jump on Instagram, let's jump on Facebook, let's go to every major platform and be like, oh look, my millionaire friends decided to dine and dash at my expense. Like, dude, are you kidding me right now? I would not only stop being their friend, but I would go on a parade of ruining their reputation. I would be screaming this from the freaking rooftops, bro. There's no way you're gonna do that to me and get away with it. So yeah, let this be a lesson learned that those people absolutely suck, and I really hope you never deal with them ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for ignoring my ex-best friend who's offering me a job again, even though he fired me 4 months earlier for having too much dandruff in my hair? Because right now I feel like I should go back, but I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so about 4 months ago, I recently lost my job, and I've been looking for a little while, but I've been working on the side until I get back on my feet. Well, my friend opened his gym about a year ago, so naturally he offered me a position working the front desk and at the smoothie bar. Everything was going great for about a month until he slowly started giving me less and less shifts. When I confronted him about it, he straight up just told me that I didn't meet the hygiene requirements for the job, and the customers were uncomfortable with me handling their food. I was so confused because I shower at least once a day, and I like to think that I take care of my health. So I challenged his assertion. He then proceeded to raise his voice at me. He said to me, "When you walk around, it's like it's snowing," and then some more stuff along those lines. "I've never seen anyone with as much dandruff as you." And I will have to admit that my scalp is a little bit dry, but he had to be exaggerating, right? Well, I then started raising my voice, and I told him if I was such a bad employee, why don't I just do you a favor and not come in for my shift tomorrow? And then he told me to just go home now and never come back again. So that's what I did. Like I said, this was all about 4 months ago, and yesterday I saw him at a bar with another one of our mutual friends, and some other life stuff in combination with this really motivated me to get myself together. So when I saw him, he started going off about how good I looked and how I looked so much healthier now. Well, all I did was lose a few pounds and use a product to fix my hair, but he was acting like I wasn't the same person that he fired. Right away, he started going on and on about how hard it is to find good employees and how one of his employees recently stole from him, so he had to fire them. This went on for about 5 minutes, and you know what? I just sat there waiting for him to finish yapping. Eventually he did, but not before telling me that firing me was the worst mistake he ever made and asking if I would be open to coming back to work. I then told him I would think about it, but I don't really want to do this, and then again, he did offer me a job in my time of need. So would I be the jerk if I ignored him and didn't take him back up on this job? Because right now I don't know what to do. Dude, there's no way I would ever work for someone like that ever again. The second someone's like, "Oh, you're fired because you have dandruff." Like seriously, that's really dumb, but also like, dude, that might be like a medical thing going on. And also, I guarantee you that no other customers are like, "Oh man, I can't be around that guy. He has too much dandruff." If anything, it was your best friend like projecting that and being like, "Yeah, we've had a lot of complaints from customers." But it's like, no, you haven't. You're lying. No one in their right mind would be looking out for that and be like, "Oh my God, he has so much dandruff." So no, you wouldn't be the jerk for ignoring him because my God, you can find a better job than that. You do not need that kind of energy in your life, and honestly, I think it would be a big mistake to even pretend to go back. My entitled boss literally humiliates herself at the hotel that we're staying at, proving to me once and for all that she truly is an entitled Karen, and I'm seriously glad that I don't work with her any longer. Here's what happened. So I was traveling with my boss to a conference held at a hotel in Las Vegas. Before the first meeting of the day, we stopped at a little cafe in the hotel complex for breakfast. I had a bagel and she had a croissant and a fruit salad. She only ate about half the fruit salad and said that she didn't want to waste the rest of it, so she was going to the counter of the cafe to ask them to write her name on it and put it in the fridge for her to pick up later on. I then said to her, "Well, my room has a little fridge, doesn't yours? If not, I can keep it in my fridge if you want me to." She then said to me, "No, I don't feel like going all the way back up to my room. I'll just have them save it for me." I then argued that food safety laws don't allow them to take food back once it's served, but she told me that doesn't apply to situations like this. She then said, "Well, like I said, I'm gonna have them write my name on the container." Well, the teenage counter girl told her what I said and that she couldn't really take the food back for liability purposes. My boss then insisted on speaking to the manager, who was busy at the moment. My boss raised her voice and said, "Go get him now. We are going to be late to our meeting." And at this point, I saw the wheels turning in the counter person's head, because if I was in her shoes, I'll just say okay and throw the fruit salad away, because in my mind, I'm not going to be on shift here when she comes back later this afternoon. So the girl smiled and said, "Okay, sure, what can it hurt?" and carefully wrote my boss's name on the lid kid in black marker. My boss then sauntered away victoriously and said to me, "See, people are happy to do things if you just ask. You're so timid. This is why you aren't more successful." We met up for dinner later on and I asked her, "Did you remember to pick up your fruit salad?" Well, I come to find out that she did, but it was all different people working then and they didn't know what she was talking about. And apparently her fruit salad had been thrown away. I said to her, "Oh, that's too bad. The manager probably made them toss it out. Sorry, I know you wanted to eat the rest of it." She then replied by saying, "Oh, it's okay. I made them make a whole new one for free since they threw mine away." Now, this is the same boss that also gave me a copy of The Fountainhead because she thought it might help me out. She also quit that job by leaving for lunch one day and never came back. In fact, she made her husband call the company weeks later and confirmed that she had quit, which is after all of their attempts to reach her were unsuccessful. She had worked there for 10 years and honestly, I do not miss her in the slightest. Dude, entitled people like this are so frustrating because seriously, just leave the worker alone and put this in your room. Like that's what the mini fridge is for, in your room itself. Why would you put them in a weird situation where they're like, okay, whose mystery fruit salad is this? And who's Karen? Like, we don't know this lady. And while it sucks that she still got what she wanted, in the end, I feel like you're the one that really came out on top because either way, you proved your point. Am I the jerk for not helping my friend out financially anymore simply because she stayed with her awful partner? Because right now I'm incredibly pissed off and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of backstory, this all takes place between 2018 and 2023. I'm a 28-year-old male and I've been friends with a girl, let's call her Jasmine, since about 2018. I was 21 years old at the time and she was 17. We actually met through my dad when I went with him to his TAFE course, which is the Australian equivalent of community college in the United States. We met one of the days I went with my dad and we got along really well. We found out we had a lot in common and just after a few days of hanging out, she started to feel like a little sister to me. Even after I went back to my mom's place, we made sure to keep in touch. I was meant to visit my dad again in 2020, but COVID hit, and I didn't get to see him or Jasmine again until April of 2021. While I was there, I met her boyfriend at the time, who we will call Josh for the sake of the story. He seemed like a really nice guy, but after I flew back home, Jasmine called me and told me that she was pregnant. Both she and Josh were excited, and I was happy for her. 9 months later, in January of 2022, she gave birth to her baby, who she called Leo. But the excitement didn't last long. Just a few days later, she called me crying. She said that Josh had left her, accusing her of cheating and saying the baby wasn't his. But she got a DNA test that proved Leo was his, but he claimed the test had been tampered with and still believes that Leo wasn't his. As far as I know, as we don't really talk anymore, he still hadn't been a part of Leo's life. In May of 2022, she started dating a new guy who we will call Johnny, and she finally seemed genuinely happy. Then in July, she rang me up asking if she could borrow some money. Johnny was struggling to find work, and they wouldn't get paid again until their next government paycheck. I've always had a kind heart and I was willing to help out, especially if it was something for Leo or to help them get food, so I agreed, thinking that it would just be a one-time thing. But after that first transaction, she kept asking me for more money week after week. It was never large amounts, usually between $30 to $60, but it got to the point where I was struggling financially too. A few times I started ignoring her calls and text messages, pretending that I was having phone issues. I mean, it just didn't feel like she wanted to talk anymore. Well, we did chat, but after a few minutes, it always turned into her saying, "Hey, can I borrow $50? This went on for another 5 months. Then on a Friday in December of 2022, she called me while I was at work, crying her eyes out. I told her to breathe and I asked her what had happened. Afterwards, she calmed down and she told me that Johnny had punched her across the face on Wednesday and the courts had issued a restraining order. He was banned from coming near her or Leo for 6 months. I asked her why he did it and she told me that he just snapped suddenly. They've been under a lot of pressure with money and bills. Well, when she told me that, I immediately said I will help her out. And that's exactly what I did. For the next 6 months, I sent her money to support her. But in June of 2023, she rang me up and told me that she needed money again. I was willing to give it to her, but then I heard a familiar voice on the line. I heard Johnny say, "Ask him if he can do $80. We need cigarettes." When I heard his voice, I asked her, "What's going on? Why is he there?" Then I heard her say, "Oh, he's allowed to be near us again. I'm so happy he's back." And when I heard that, I just absolutely lost it. So let me get this straight. This piece of dirt hits you and you get back with him? She tried to justify his actions by saying, "Oh, he's stressed out. He didn't mean to." But I went off on her again. "Jasmine, I'm not going to help you anymore if you're going to stay with him. Once an awful person, always an awful person." There was silence on her end for a few seconds before she went off at me. "You're a jerk. We need money to help pay for bills and food. Think about your nephew." I then got really pissed off when she brought up Leo because she had always called me his unofficial uncle. I said to her, "Don't you dare start guilt tripping me with Leo. And also, tell your awful boyfriend to get a job and support his family. After she heard that, she went off on me again. You're just jealous of us, that's what it is. At this point, I was getting tired, so I decided to end it. And I can see why some people might call me a jerk, but I had had enough. You're not my type anyways. Besides, why would I date my sister who can't even put food on the table? I said that and then I hung up the phone. After that, I blocked her everywhere. She tried to reach out for other accounts, but I put my socials on private. I'm now wondering if I did the right thing because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Dude, there is no way on earth I would ever allow someone like that back in my life. You mean to tell me she's going back to the guy that smacked her in the face? Like, are you kidding me right now? She's an idiot for doing that. There's no good excuse for that. I understand people can look back in retrospect and be like, yeah, I was in a really dark place and I shouldn't have done that. But this is common sense. Like, come on. You cannot honestly be telling me that she's just going back to this guy willingly. It's like, dude, have a backbone. What are you doing? So no, I don't blame you for not helping out your friend with money, because I guarantee you Johnny's gonna blow all of it, and this cycle will continue probably indefinitely. Am I the jerk for not paying my roommate a portion of the electricity bill, all because I'd already moved out by the time she started keeping count? Because right now I'm pretty pissed off because she is adamant that I need to pay her back for the 5 days that apparently I was using the electricity, and now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently moved out of my apartment that I share with a woman who we will call Patty. The light bill had been under my name for the entire time that we have been living together, and since I was moving out and she was staying, we needed to transfer accounts over to her, and we did exactly that on April 25th. So I got the final bill for the last 2 months of the lights that we needed to split. That final bill was substantially higher than anything we paid before. The reason being is that for the month of March, she had used the heater a lot, and also had her boyfriend stay with her a week or two. Meanwhile, I was gone the entire month of March, but we still split that bill. Patty then sent me a text message today, which was a week after I moved out on April 30th, asking about the light bill for April. I said that in the final bill, we already paid for most of April, and her next bill will only include April 26th through April 30th. Mind you, her boyfriend came again to visit the last week of April and stayed in the apartment the entire time. And on top of that, they were also using the heater all day. Anyways, she then proceeds to tell me that she will send me how much I owe her for those 5 days from her next bill. And I'm finding this completely ridiculous. I refuse to pay for 5 days of whatever her bill will be because she cannot tell me how much all of those days were exactly. After I left, she hosted several other people, and her next roommate moved in like a week after me. So whatever light they all spent will obviously add up there. Mind you, I have gifted her a ton of stuff when I moved out, and I've also helped her with free resources for school. I was driving her around when she didn't have a car, etc. And even when she had to go away for 2 months, I told her to not even worry about the light bill because I would take care of all of it. And now she's gonna charge me 5 days that she'll divide based on her next bill. Plus, I would be paying half for her boyfriend as well. So seriously, am I the jerk for saying that I won't pay those 5 days? Because right now I'm still pretty pissed off about this. Oh man, there's no way on earth I would ever pay that. She's being so petty and clearly forgetting all the good things that you did for her. Like seriously, you literally went out of your way to take care of her and make sure that she had her stuff together, but she clearly can't find it in herself to return the favor. Like, are you kidding me right now? So no, I would never pay that for a second because your roommate, in my opinion, is being incredibly nasty to you. I left my boyfriend right before he proposed, and now he's becoming the man I begged him to be. And at this point, I don't know if I broke things off way too soon or if I need to do something differently because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I recently ended a 2-year relationship with my ex right before he was going to propose. I know I made the right choice, but part of me is still struggling with the aftermath. In the beginning, he told me he wanted a relationship, then suddenly changed his mind and said he just wanted to be friends. He blocked and unblocked me multiple times, watched my stories, and when I finally began to move on, he came back into my life. I gave him a second chance because I thought people deserve one, but now I regret it. 3 months in, on my birthday, he told me about a girl he used to have feelings for and how doing something with me reminded him of her. It was hurtful and confusing, and things only went downhill from there. I kept letting things slide even when I felt disrespected, and I just don't know why. He would say things during intimacy that made me uncomfortable, even though I told him I didn't like being called certain names. Our physical relationship felt very one-sided, and I often felt neglected. Over time, he stopped being affectionate, he stopped posting about me, and acted distant when we went places together. I felt like I was constantly asking to be seen and loved. Ever since the breakup, he's done everything I used to ask for, helping me build my credit, being there for me after a car accident, even supporting me through hard moments. He even says that he found God and wants to be a better man. He is showing up now in ways that he never did before. The confusing part is that I do want marriage, and we were apparently so close to that. I had no idea he was planning to propose, and now I'm stuck stuck wondering, was I too quick to walk away? Or is he only changing because he lost me? What should I do? Oh man, this guy's only changing because you're walking away. He's literally just like throwing down the hook and trying to reel you back in. This all feels really manipulative in my opinion. And I know if I was in this situation and I had a girl acting like that towards me, where she's only making changes when I'm ready to move on and I'm actively like breaking up with her, like if I dealt with that, I think I would just walk away and be like, no, I can't deal with you right now. So yeah, this is really sketchy and I just think you could do way better than this guy. Am I the jerk for refusing to play a game with my friend after he drops $100 on in-game purchases and levels way past me in the online game we were playing? Because right now he's calling me a baby and at this point I'm still pretty pissed off. Here's what's going on. Okay, so me and my friend, both male, a little over 21 years old, decided to start playing this online game that we randomly found. We played well over 4 hours of the game and my friend really enjoyed it, so he decided to purchase $100 worth of cosmetics and story expansions. Now I personally enjoyed it, but not to that extent. I mean, all I dropped was about $20 and that was it. We played until we ultimately reached level 40 and my friend decided to hop off to sleep. Before calling it a night, he messages me and says, "Try not to level too far. We're gonna level the heck out of this tomorrow." So after reading that, I decided not to do anything that would level me too quickly. I spent the next 3 hours doing low-level dungeons and helping other players because that's the sort of thing I enjoy. Then I called it a night and I went to sleep soon afterwards. I woke up the next morning 8 hours later and I saw him online playing the game and I thought nothing of it, probably sorting out purchases and items or something like that. But when I hopped on, I saw his level and immediately got sick. He literally was level 96, about 55 levels above where I was. I got really upset and started to chew him out over a call. All he would say was, "Well, I felt like you were dealing more damage than me, so I decided to get stronger and leveling up was a byproduct." I referred to the text message last night that he sent me and all he said was, "You didn't need to get stronger, I did." I then stopped talking to him up to this morning, which is a couple of days after the incident. He asked me again if I want to hop on, but I refused. He called me a baby and said I was wasting his $100 that he spent on the game, and I should at least help him get his money's worth. But I told him I'm never touching this game again, and if I did, it wouldn't be with him. I wouldn't be this upset if the game had level scaling, where the monsters scale with each party member's level, but they don't have that. If I hopped on, we'd only be able to play dungeons at my level, and he would decimate everything in his path. I would literally have to ask him to let me get kills so that I can level up, because I know for a fact that he would do that and then get bored and be like, "Oh, this is taking too long," and then kill everything that he wants. So am I the jerk for not wanting to play this game anymore, all because he basically ruined it? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't blame you for not wanting to play with this friend, because they sound like the kind of person who literally always has to be ahead no matter what. And I've dealt with people like that and they are so obnoxious, it's not even funny. So no, I don't blame you for not wanting to play this game. This guy intentionally told you, "Hey, don't level up," and then suddenly he's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna level up." And so I think that's really crooked, and I just don't think you need that kind of energy in your life. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're gonna love what they're making over there. It's a great channel, and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.